Hey besties, right now I'm in Cambodia and I want to say a huge thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. One of our viewers recently wrote to me, opening up about the challenges they've been facing. They wrote, "Tonight I reached out to BetterHelp and I don't think I would have done this without watching your videos. Thank you for helping me turn my life around." I won't share it here, but their story was very powerful, underscoring the huge impact of reaching out when you're struggling. If you're facing challenges in life, remember that hope is just a click away. Taking that step toward a brighter tomorrow is something we can all do with BetterHelp. BetterHelp brings together a dedicated team of licensed therapists committed to accompanying you on a journey of personal growth. Their mission is clear: to make therapy universally accessible and affordable, eliminating the constraints of waiting rooms and geographical limitations. Getting started on your journey is super straightforward. Just answer a few questions and BetterHelp matches you with a therapist tailored to your needs, often within 48 hours. Connect however you want, through phone calls, video chats, or even messaging. If you've been wrestling with mental struggles and need someone to talk it out with, therapy just might be the answer. To get started now, click the link downstairs in the description or go to betterhelp.com/besteverfood to get 10% off your first month. And here's the best part: if you ever need to switch therapists, rest assured there are zero hidden fees or insurance headaches. It's time to break free from negative cycles. To start your journey, head on over to betterhelp.com/besteverfood today. Now, on to the show. Here, I've never had an entire crab, shell, legs, everything all in one go, especially here in the US. And the fact that this is like an American food gets me even more excited, because it's certainly not something that most Americans have ever tried or even heard of.
This is about as weird as Maryland gets right here.
In this series, we're taking on seafood on the USA's East Coast, all the way from Maine to Miami.
That is just a moment of perfection.
We can have more moments.
I can have more moments.
All you can eat buffet.
It's raining and I don't even care.
If we run out, we'll just go get more.
But before that, let's back up. The USA's East Coast consists of over 2,000 miles of shoreline from the Canadian border to the southern tip of Florida. Here, you'll find some of this country's most precious treasures of the deep.
This is the biggest pomfret I've ever seen in my life.
Aquatic gems that fishermen work tirelessly to bring in, no matter the time, no matter the weather, and no matter how seasick they may get.
My camera guy, he threw up today. Can we show that really quick?
From the ocean, this seafood changes hands to chefs around the country.
Yeah.
Chefs who take on the challenge of preparing what can be an incredibly rewarding type of food.
For you, running this high-end fine dining restaurant, what is the biggest challenge in sourcing good quality seafood?
But also an ingredient that, if not prepared properly, can lead to absolute disaster.
Every year there are some casualties. Some people die from eating oysters, I assume, that are raw.
There was one, I think, in Virginia last year.
BJ?
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
From the home-cooked meals of the Gullah on St. Helena Island,
The shrimp here, it's just distinct, man. I've tasted shrimp from the Gulf up to Florida Keys, but these are special, man.
to impressively expensive fine dining at a 2 Michelin star restaurant in Manhattan.
Somebody went in the water and picked these by hand.
They could have died.
They probably did.
Anything underwater, you can't breathe.
Absolutely.
In this series, I'm on a mission to reveal how the USA's top seafood is sourced
I think we're in luck.
Oh my God, that's huge.
and how it gets to its final destination on your dinner table.
We got a real nice keeper here. This is a large lobster, about a 2-pounder. It's gonna be delicious.
Like Maine lobster, trapped in cages by hardworking lobstermen on day boats.
Oh my God. Wow. This one's amazing.
Each year, these waters just off the coast of Maine bring in over 100 million pounds of lobster that's then shipped around the country
You separate the good and bad lobsters.
Correct.
and around the world.
How do you tell the difference between a good lobster and a bad lobster?
So,
Are you looking for tattoos?
yeah.
It's a terrible joke.
In Maine's capital, that sweet ocean meat is put to use in chilled lobster rolls.
Would you say that's a whole lobster in there?
Yeah, it's a meat from just about a 1-pound lobster in each roll.
There's like so much meat on here. There's so many claws. Should we try it out?
Oh yeah, let's go for it.
There are the blue crabs, famous in Maryland.
Oh, they're going. Look at these crabs.
Here, crabbers check hundreds of pots hoping to cash in with this valuable crustacean.
Oh my God, this thing is gigantic. Holy cow.
There's a correct way to hold them.
Look at this dude. Oh no.
The meat can be tediously plucked out by professional pickers, then stuffed inside meaty crab cakes.
We're gonna flip.
Or, if you're feeling more adventurous, soft-shell crabs can be fried up and eaten whole.
It has that leathery feel to the outside. It's flexible. It's very disconcerting.
It's got legs.
It's got legs.
In Virginia, rather than hunting down creatures of the deep, farmers have perfected the craft of cultivating oysters.
Yeah.
This multi-year process means oyster seeds go from looking like this to eventually growing to this.
Plus-sized oysters.
Plus size.
Body positivity oysters.
Finally ending up at a restaurant near you, cooked up in ways you couldn't imagine.
Tell them how many oysters we serve every year.
307,000 oysters.
Wow.
It's almost one per every person living in the city of Richmond, and maybe a couple people had two.
And then there's Florida, a paradise for all things seafood.
Did it get much bigger than this?
Twice as big.
Here you'll find giant stone crab claws that could be worth
Up to $90 in general
For something like this?
for the colossal size, yes sir.
Mind-blowing.
Here you can find processing facilities boiling giant containers of seafood, like this 400-pound basket of spiny lobsters. A creature who competes with the Maine lobster for the title of the USA's favorite seafood.
Now for me, unequivocally, I would have to say, I love them.
Why?
Okay, so first of all,
Okay, tell me.
In this series, I don't just want to eat America's finest seafood. I want to show you where it comes from. Standing shoulder to shoulder with fishermen who undergo backbreaking work
You're hired.
thank you.
just to deliver you the perfect bite.
You know, there's this trend now, if you're not cool as a white person, people might say you're not invited to the barbecue or you're not invited to the cookout.
Well, you here, man? Let me get that, please.
I'm invited.
Yeah.
I'm feeling pretty cool.
From Maine to Miami, our cross-country seafood journey is about to begin right here on this dock.
Right now we're at a local harbor. There's a boat behind me and this boat belongs to Jacob Knowles. You might be wondering who that is until you remember that, wait, I keep seeing this guy on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. It's that guy.
Here we have a fairly large female that's currently full of eggs.
The way he makes money is by fishing for lobster or caging. The lobster go into a cage.
Today, I'm on a mission to learn how lobster trapping works and the labor-intensive process required to ship these guys to their final destination, whether it's across the country or across the world.
Right now we're about to go out on this lobster boat to pull up some cages and see what we can find. Let's do this.
For me, a fervent seafood lover, coming here to the most eastern outpost of New England is an absolute dream. This cold, clean Atlantic water is home to one of the most sought-after lobsters in the world, all hand-harvested from small day boats by independent lobstermen with special licenses.
Jacob?
Just like Jacob Knowles.
Put her there.
Nice to meet you.
You are a lobsterman. Is that what it's called?
Lobster fisherman, lobsterman, either one.
What's this place like?
I would say it's pretty old-fashioned.
How is it different from the rest of the USA?
We kind of got left back in time.
Maine, sparsely populated with only 1.4 million, is dotted with historic buildings, cozy towns, and more lighthouses than you could shake a stick at.
Especially in the fishing world. The average age of fishermen is 55 years old. Generational family driven. I'm 5th generation.
And for 5 generations, you've been able to do that, and there's
Correct.
still enough lobster.
Yeah, and that's thanks to the sustainability measures that are in place for it.
Soon, I'll be tasting one of Jacob's largest catches. But snagging these lobsters in the Gulf of Maine isn't just about casting a net and counting your bounty. Many of them are illegal to keep.
All right, so we're pulling up to the first buoy. On each buoy, we have 2 lobster traps. They're all baited. They're sitting on bottom. We're gonna pull them up and see what's in them.
Do you even remember how old you were the first time you got on a
No,
boat?
I don't. It was probably 4 or 5 with my dad.
It's just you've been doing it your actual entire life.
My entire life.
It's like on America's Got Talent when girls are like, I've been dancing since I was 2. But for you, maybe so.
Yeah, grew up doing it. We got a few lobsters. This is the first trap. This is what we would call the header. These are pairs. And here comes the tailor. We got a real nice keeper here. This is a large lobster, about a 2-pounder. Fantastic eating lobster. So on a typical day, we start much earlier than this, 3:30 in the morning, and we have 800 traps stay in the water all the time, and we just go out. We pull 400 traps in each rotation. We bring our catch back in and sell it at the end of the day. It's just day trips. We don't do any kind of trip fishing. We've got a real large female. So in Maine, we actually can't keep them when they get too big. This one's probably a keeper. It's very close. We'll have to measure it to find out.
In 1872, Maine set the standard with a suite of regulations to safeguard its precious lobster populations. These same measures are still enforced today.
So I can quickly tell that most of these are too short.
There are strict size limits.
They all go back.
The traps themselves must be equipped with escape vents and biodegradable panels.
In the rare event a trap is lost, these hog rings will rust out, this door will open, and it will let everything in the trap out.
Then there's the V-notch, a way of marking females who will be the future mothers of tomorrow's lobster catch.
She's a proven breeder, so we must let her go. This is one of many things that keeps fishery so sustainable.
Jacob launched his TikTok journey 3 years ago, breaking down the ins and outs of lobster trapping.
Somebody's already given her a notch. If you've been watching my shorts, you've probably learned that the notch is a way to protect them.
Now he has millions of followers, and he's even been featured in the New York Times. Though he's become an internet sensation, he hasn't left the sea behind.
I'm gonna open it up, attempt to take out each species that's inside of here. I'm gonna start with this little guy. Oh, yes!
It's a small Jonah crab. We get paid better money for the lobster, so that's what we target.
Bye, little guy. All right, we got, this right here, is it a boy or a girl?
That's a female, yeah.
Okay.
Just look at their swimmerettes here. And their upper ones are very flimsy. On the males, they'll be bigger, more stiff.
So we're keeping this one.
This one is probably too short, actually.
Oh no, there's other regulations.
Yeah, we can only keep them if they're over 3 1/4 from their eye down to the back of their shell. You can see this one's clearly under 3 1/4, so she's got to be released as well. They need a chance to show that they can breed. We sometimes will give them a fish for a snack for the road, if you've seen that.
I did see that,
Yeah.
I like that. I'm going right to this gigantic one we've got in here. See if I can do it. Oh my God. Wow.
Those are very nice, yeah.
Talking about size, it's a female.
She's got no knot.
So far we're okay. What about the length?
Along with 3 1/4, they also can't be over 5 inches. That's the other side of our measure.
That's my wife's requirements for me.
Yeah, 5 inches is very large, so just barely legal. This is actually a keeper.
Really?
She's actually a hard shell. She's gonna taste much different than a soft-shelled lobster.
Much different.
The soft shells are much sweeter. I actually very much prefer the soft-shelled lobsters.
Most of us, when we're eating a lobster in a restaurant around the country, are we eating a hard shell or a soft shell?
Almost always you're eating a hard shell because they're durable. They survive shipping much better. Soft shells aren't able to survive shipping. We can't ship a soft shell to Florida.
I just feel so ripped off right now.
Yeah, well, you're gonna get to experience right here, right out of the ocean.
You've got some?
This one right here is a nice soft shell.
Next, Jacob's preparing a meal fit for royalty, dining on fresh lobster from trap to table. The star of the show, this barely legal hard shell. And some softies too, all steamed the fisherman's way, using salty ocean water.
Obviously, you know the nuance of lobster. You live here, you fish for them, you eat it often?
I eat it probably 5 or 6 times a year, usually just for occasions. My wife likes them, so whenever she wants them, I bring them home. I don't eat them for myself necessarily. I do enjoy them though.
Yeah, don't what? Don't smoke your own supply?
Don't get high on your own supply.
After 12 minutes, it's time to take a look.
These ones are definitely done. We got a big one in here that we're gonna give him 5 more minutes.
Meanwhile, Jacob whips up a local lobster dipping sauce.
Here's a little trick. We actually add vinegar to the butter. It's top secret, don't tell anybody. The vinegar adds great flavor to the butter and kind of cuts it. In my opinion, it's much better.
In the future, Jacob aims to pivot his online presence into a full-time gig.
He's hot.
While making lobster fishing the side gig. But for now, he's sticking to what he knows best.
When I said I wanted to try this giant, nearly 4-pound lobster, you said nasty.
It does.
Why?
From what I hear, they are much less sweet.
Hold on, you're saying nasty, but you don't even know for sure.
You want to bet? $5?
Well, okay.
It's not going to be nasty, but it's not going to be like these.
All right, let's try it out.
The first thing we do is separate the tail from the body, separate the tail flippers from the tail. We have a hole right here in the back. Push your finger right in the hole. Work good.
Ooh.
There's a big tail.
That was like a magic button you pressed. Oh, what's that part you're taking off now?
It's covering the poop chutes. We can eat it, but this is the more preferred part of the tail. Let's try it plain.
Cheers.
Cheers. It tastes good.
I still like it.
I'm surprised at how good it tastes.
It's pretty sweet. It's on the edge of being tough, but not too tough. Slightly stringy, not too stringy.
Let's try a shot.
That was our benchmark. Now we're gonna try one of these.
You'll notice that the tail has much less meat in it.
You take one tail, I take one tail. Ready?
Ready.
Let's go for it.
You can taste the sweetness.
You can taste the innocent. It's so young. Oh, that's so delicious.
Very good.
Clean, sweet, fatty, and just a wonderful texture. What I want to try next is the butter, which you have mixed with vinegar, which is something I've never tried before.
Yeah.
Let's go for it.
That's the best.
What?
That's my favorite.
That is super unique.
I don't feel like it takes away from the flavor of the lobster either.
Not at all. Yeah, it elevates the flavor of the butter.
sure.
That's really nice.
Really good. My favorite part of the lobster is actually the claws. You can pull the knuckles right out. More tender meat.
That is much more akin to like a crab leg.
Much more like crab meat.
What's next?
With the pincher claw, we're actually gonna have to break it. There we go. There's a piece for you. That's my favorite bite right there.
Thank you. I'm excited. Let's
do it.
Give a little bit of a dip.
I thought you loved me.
Bliss.
Is that your favorite part too?
That's nirvana. I went to a new level of food heaven.
That's great.
Oh, that's fantastic. I just had this thought, like, you know, if a Mormon knocked on your door and then they were like, taste this, and then you're like, oh my God, and they're like, you could have that for eternity. I'd be like, where do I sign? Just a moment of perfection.
We can have more moments.
I can have more moments. This is incredible.
All you can eat buffet.
It's raining and I don't even care.
Even with today's abundant harvest, not all of these lobsters are considered good. Next, we're headed to a facility where I'll learn what makes a bad lobster and the tragic story of where they end up.
Victor, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Now, I'm told this is a processing facility for lobsters, but then I was also told the lobsters come here, they're alive. When they leave,
They're alive.
They're also alive. What kind of processing is happening here?
Much of Maine's live lobster haul heads to facilities like Lobster Trap.
Do you pay them? Who pays them?
We pay them.
These centers can process up to 600,000 pounds of lobster at a time, and they can store 200,000 2,000 pounds of live lobster, holding them for up to 3 months depending on market demand.
If you have overrun in the wintertime, same thing in the fall. We'll put lobsters in, we feed them, take care of them.
I like you say take care of them. Like take them for walks,
Yeah.
give them medicine.
No medicine.
A lobster pound is designed to emulate the natural environment of the crustaceans until they're ready to go to market.
Victor,
Hello.
We're inside now. Right here behind me, it's a giant pool. It's full of baskets of lobster.
We're gonna pull out, we get what we call a basic boat run. We then segregate whether it's a good lobster or a processed lobster.
What makes a bad lobster?
Something that is not uniform to what you'd want to see on a dinner plate.
Because the claws are different sizes?
Correct.
What happened there?
He could have lost that years ago. Of course, they do regrow their claws, so he's not up to speed yet. Same thing with like this one.
Okay, I could have figured this one out. What do they consider this?
A pistol.
Well, he's got one arm. The bad lobsters, where do they
A
go?
lot of times they go to Canada, depending on what's happening, where they'll actually be broken
Take that,
down.
Canada. You can have our crappy lobsters. We're keeping the good ones.
They actually process them down into meat format where they can go in stews or they can go into sushi.
Somewhere where you don't have to see their disgusting one-clawed body.
Correct.
I had no idea there were so many deformed lobsters crawling around on the ocean floor because all you ever get to see are the beautiful ones.
On the flip side, the good lobsters are meticulously sorted into 7 weight categories.
This would be like 3.5.
Those tipping the scales at over 2 pounds are labeled select, and they fetch the highest prices.
Where are you shipping these?
All around the world. We have an office in Spain and Holland, Vietnam, Germany, Berlin. Some of that will go air freight, some of it will go by truck.
So some are flown?
Yes.
Wild.
There's a lot of labor of love behind these in order to get this all around the world.
From here, I'm gonna ship myself to a nearby restaurant to try some of this lobster right here in Maine.
Yeah.
There could be nothing better than eating lobster at a restaurant that was voted best of Portland. Here, they've won best waterfront dining, best deck, and most important, best lobster roll.
First of all, very happy to be here. I'm excited because I'm from Minnesota, far from an ocean.
Very far.
So in my head, I thought, well, we're not really a bunch of a seafood country, but it's like, oh wait, maybe that's because I live super far from both oceans. But you grew up in Maine.
I did.
There's a lot of seafood.
There is.
Among their top sellers, the classic steamed lobster with corn, a savory clam roll with plenty of fried clam, and the legendary lobster roll, of which they sell an impressive 600 portions daily. And I'm about to make it 601. But first, I want to whet my appetite with another Maine specialty.
This is clam chowder.
New England clam chowder.
Iconic.
First, marry salted butter and chopped pork together, then stir until it turns golden brown.
Something I've wanted to try my whole life. I mean, I've had Campbell's
Right.
New England clam chowder. How would this compare?
Add minced onions and celery, then anchovies, garlic, more salted butter, and stir.
They kind of made clam chowder, the idea of clam chowder, what it is. So when people come and they're looking for a clam chowder, they're looking for that thick consistency.
Next, keep adding all-purpose flour and mix until the blend becomes thick.
Actually, a traditional chowder is a thin soup.
Oh, okay.
We're giving the people what they want.
Now pour in chopped clam that's been boiling with tomatoes.
Isn't that heartbreaking?
It is a little bit.
I don't go to China and expect to see a cream cheese wonton.
Yeah.
Do you still like this?
I love it. I like both.
Both good, just different.
Yes.
Toss in clam juice, mix, diced potatoes, mix, then add salt, white pepper, dried parsley, basil, and half. Finally, some scallions to top it off.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, it's a wonderful combination of textures. Mushy potato, and the clam is super chewy, but it's a wonderful chewiness. You kind of like chewing the flavor out of it. The potato chunks feel like more fresh. Am I comparing it to Campbell's right now? What type of clam are you using?
These are just like a
Run-of-the-mill clam.
Yeah, there's places pretty close that you can dig clams right out of the ocean. One of my coworkers was just telling me about digging with their toes. I don't think that's how they're doing it for these ones.
Okay, I hope not. How long have you lived here?
I've lived in Portland for 17 years, but I've lived in Maine my whole life.
When we first came here, I was really excited. I'm still excited, but I was told this is the biggest city in Maine. And I pictured, wow, like futuristic metropolis. And then I looked it up, 65,000 people.
Yeah.
So what is the personality of Portland?
It's a foodie city. People are passionate about cooking here. We have access to beautiful seafood. We have a great farmland here as well. Fresh veggies, foraged foods, and things like that. We have beef farms, we have dairy farms, we have potatoes, we have blueberries. We have a lot to offer food-wise. So for someone who enjoys cooking, it's awesome.
So the tourists who do come here, what are they after?
Seafood.
What foods are most tourists after when they come here?
I mean, I think lobster, probably.
After our freshly boiled lobster has been chilled, they meticulously extract the succulent meat, from the tails to the tips of the claws. A crisp lettuce leaf nestles inside a toasted bun, cradling the chilled lobster. Add a drizzle of melted butter, served up with a side of golden fries, and this coastal indulgence is at its best.
Would you say that's a whole lobster in there?
Yeah, it's a meat from just about a 1 pound lobster in each roll.
Joining Carissa and me, Portland Lobster Company owner Ethan Morgan.
So you have this great combination of temperatures, actually. You have the roll, which is hot, it's still steaming, and then all the lobster inside is chilled.
Yeah.
You do have some butter on the side just in case if people want it.
Yeah, you gotta try it. It adds just a little salt, adds a little bit more to it.
Take it to the next level.
And that's really all you need.
It's so fresh, it's so clean, it's sweet, it's fatty. I love it. What got you into this business?
I came here to pour beers 20 years ago during college. That was it. I was gonna spend one summer here on the coast, just fell in love with it.
What's interesting to me about not just Portland, but Maine is it has a small town feel. Everyone feels very connected, everyone knows everybody, especially within this very prominent industry. Everybody knows some lobstermen, people who work in processing areas, people who are selling the final product. I guess one of my big questions is, the people actually catching the lobster, are they getting a raw deal? Because it seems like we have so many middlemen in so many industries, and it's never like, oh, the farmers increase their prices again. No, it's always like everyone else increases their prices.
Yeah.
The lobster is still $5 a pound.
The lobstermen they work really hard. They're the ones that are out there 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, going out setting traps, working all hours of the day to bring in not a whole lot.
You've been doing this for a long time. What are the biggest challenges you face or that other lobstermen face?
There's a lot of times throughout the year where the fishing is poor, and during those times we're limited to how far we can kind of explore and search for lobsters. We just kind of got to wait and grind it out, and during those times it becomes pretty tedious. And then the back-breaking work obviously is very physical labor. My father, my grandfather, by the time they're 40, 50 years old, their bodies are worn out.
Jeez.
Yeah.
The tourist market here in the state drives some of the price for sure, but a lot of it is driven by processing houses. A couple of months ago, we'd start sourcing our own lobsters. Ultimately, the goal is be able to work with a handful of lobstermen that we know, and then we can pay them a fair amount more to cut out that middleman. It's a pretty touchy subject here in the state for sure.
Why is this a sensitive topic?
So the boats are coming in, they're selling to a pound, they're selling them on to somebody else. Everybody's tacking on 20 cents, 30 cents here and there. It's not that anybody is necessarily gouging, it's just that it's an expensive process too.
Right.
You're trying to keep an animal alive, and that takes an awful lot of resources to do. So when it gets to the table, you're seeing a fairly high price that isn't necessarily reflected on the boat.
What do you think is the future for the lobster industry here?
Fishermen that are off the coast of Maine, they recognize that this is the industry for the state. They recognize that it is their bread and butter, and they're very good at self-sustaining. They're setting their own regulations, and it's been a model of sustainability. That's something that more money needs to be driven to right now as we do start looking at warming waters. Things I'm sure you learned the other day about V-notching, trap excluders,
right.
Everything like that. They're not going to be overfishing.
Our East Coast seafood tour takes us from Portland, Maine, all the way down to the Big Apple. Here, you'll find one of the world's biggest seafood markets, second in size only to Tsukiji Market in Japan.
This is Fulton Fish Market in New York City, and it is 3 a.m. This is the earliest call time I've ever had in my life. What is it with fish people being nocturnal?
This central seafood hub means that delightful creatures from near and far end up in New York City's best restaurants. From affordable, pick-your-own-fish Greek joints,
Greek seafood. How is it different from any other type of seafood preparation?
to Michelin-rated restaurants with some of the most expensive seafood menus in the city.
Fish and seafood, they're difficult to work with compared to steak, pork. In spite of that, why do you choose to have such a heavy focus on fish and seafood here?
But before we dine, we gotta go get some fish.
What time does this place get cracking in the morning? Because it's 3 a.m. and it's going at a pretty good clip right now.
Yeah, 1 o'clock, the pallets start dropping, ice starts getting thrown on the fish, and the buyers start rolling in.
In 1822, Manhattan witnessed the inception of Fulton Fish Market, renowned as one of the oldest seafood markets in the USA.
The Brooklyn Bridge built over the market 65 years after starting out.
The market's relocation to the Bronx in 2005 expanded its footprint to 400,000 square feet, securing its position as the world's second largest seafood market. In 2013, they went digital, letting folks from all over America snag their favorite seafoods.
The co-op, which is the Fulton Fish Market, is 20-some individually family-run businesses, some of which are 6th generation, predates the U.S. Civil War. They all have direct connections with the fishermen. The fishermen go out, they catch, and they know to send it here. They get paid immediately, and we sell it.
Boasting annual sales exceeding $1 billion and a remarkable daily turnover of 13 to 15 million pounds of seafood. This market consistently amazes even the most frequent patrons. Right now, I'm hunting down the juiciest, most exotic ocean treasure I can find. Treasure that I'll soon bring to two vastly different restaurants where I'll see how they treat this meat. And Bobby here has a very promising offer.
Bobby, put her there. I feel like I'm gonna die. It's so goddamn cold in here. It's like 32 in here?
30.
Below freezing, I like it.
Starting out as a clam digger, Bobby developed a deep affection for the fish market he once provided for. After over 5 decades of selling experience, he's now a tuna expert.
Where do you think the best tuna in the world comes from?
I would have to say the Northeast right here, this time of year. The Japanese might disagree that they have a certain area where they like their tuna better, but you really can't beat this.
Can we try it out?
Sure. So if this was a bluefin tuna, this belly would be like that fat. And that's where you get your otoro, chutoro.
Oh, that looks fantastic. Cheers.
The taste of fat. Feel the fat?
It tastes amazing. The only thing missing is some sake.
Well, I have some scotch upstairs. But,
it's very rich, oily, but a very neutral flavor. I love it.
This is a local big eye tuna. So this is the loin. This would be the akami, the red meat. So you can see the fat down here by the skin. That's toward the outside of the fish. The fish has to keep itself warm.
I keep my fat on the outside too.
Cheers. Again, the fat, first thing that hits you, more flavor, more pronounced, I think.
Definitely more flavor to it. Less fat, cold, clean, beautiful. I love it. I want to ask you a couple questions about New York City. Around the USA, some cities are known as seafood cities. Is New York City a seafood city?
I think so. The culture has been that they eat things from the ocean and from the streams and estuaries around New York City. Back in the 20s, and even before that, the average New Yorker ate 600 oysters a year.
Now you could buy like a car with that much money. Has the world of seafood in New York City changed a lot from the time you started?
Oh, definitely. When I started in 1972, there wasn't that much imports. There wasn't farmed salmon even. Now, of course, we get fish from everywhere. And I mean everywhere, every continent, even Antarctica. And as the culture of the city changes, they bring their cultural tastes also. So everything comes in.
Tuna sashimi is amazing, but I'm craving a more unconventional and intriguing seafood. Pioneer vendor Warren may have just the thing.
Warren, put her there.
How are you?
Pleasure seeing you early this morning. I stopped here because you have a fish I've never seen before. Now, I have seen a pomfret, but every time I've seen a pomfret, it's about this big. And then I come here, I'm told it's the same type of fish, at least the same species, but it's gigantic. Can I pick it up?
Please.
This is the biggest pomfret I've ever seen in my life.
Pomfret are a family of deep-sea dwellers scattered around the globe. This fella is an Atlantic pomfret, stretching up to 40 inches and diving as deep as 3,300 feet below the surface.
You know, it's a deep, deep fish, so the density of the meat is really tight, so it's gonna take to anything you do. What we'll do is we'll fillet one for you and we'll show you. It's a really nice, tight, translucent meat, has a nice oil and has a nice flavor platform.
Well, let's slice her open.
Yeah, let's do it. The fish is from Munchies, North Carolina, and it's kind of a bycatch, but it's really a treat. We don't see it all season long. It's only a certain part of the year that we really get into. As you can see, a beautiful, nice thin bloodline. That's something that would look great in the sushi bar.
I'd eat that.
You're going to.
Oh, yes. Oh, it's almost irony. And you're right, very dense, but cold, fresh, delicious. I love it.
Intrigued by the giant pomfret's potential, I'm packing it up as a surprise gift for Spiro, the maestro of this town's favorite wallet-friendly seafood stop. So, will he love and accept my seafood offering?
Have you cooked one of these before?
No, I haven't.
Or simply show me the door?
I think he hates the pomfret.
Beyond your ordinary Greek eatery, Astoria Seafood is a 2-in-1 restaurant with no menu, a bring-your-own-bottle policy, and an open floor for spontaneous live performances. But I'd be lost without the guidance of second-generation owner Spiro.
Can you tell me in just a couple sentences, what is the concept behind this restaurant?
It's really a retail market / restaurant. So you come in, buy fish, take it home, cook it at home, or you could actually tell us what you want to do with it, and we make it for you.
I know you don't usually do this, but I brought my own fish. It's right here in this cooler. I'm going to show you that soon to see if it's something you think you could work with.
Okay.
You've heard of a pomfret, right?
Pomfret, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is a freaking giant pomfret.
Okay.
A huge one.
See that?
Have you ever seen one this big?
I've seen them that big, yeah.
Oh, okay. For me, it's the first. Have you cooked one of these before?
No, I haven't, but it looks like it's a dark, more oily-based fish, and those are usually my favorite.
Are you up for the challenge?
Sure.
My pomfret is destined for 2 Greek-style dishes. For our first dish, the pomfret fillets go through a 4-step skincare routine with salt, pepper, garlic, and secret spices.
Greek seafood, how is it different from any other type of seafood preparation?
It's a Mediterranean swing on it. The grill is probably the biggest thing that we do. It's done with virgin olive oil and fresh garlic, oregano, salt, pepper, lemon.
Then they relax on the grill until their skin is tan and crispy.
What are some of the most classic fish that you serve here?
There's a bunch that are local, a bunch from South America, also from the Mediterranean. There's a bronzino, black sea bass, red snapper. All those fish are beautiful fish.
The grilled pomfret fillets are dressed up with garlic, oil, asparagus, broccoli, onion, tomato, and vinegar.
Pleasure. Very nice to meet you. How does this look to you?
Excellent.
Joining us at the table, Spiro's father and founder of Astoria Seafood, Baliles.
We can do a kind of family style, right?
Yeah.
We all dig in. This is one of the thickest fillets I've ever seen in my life. Cheers.
Nice.
That's delicious.
First time I'm eating pomfret. It has a very good texture.
Yeah, it's very soft, it's very flaky, and the seasoning is incredible. What's interesting is, early this morning at Fulton Market, I tried the raw version of this fish. It tasted like blood. It was very irony, but now that flavor completely gone.
Like I said, this is the first time I've had pomfret, and I think it's not bad at all.
In New York, that's a compliment, right?
Yeah. No, it's a very good fish.
For our second dish, pomfret fillets are rubbed down with salt, pepper, garlic, some secret spices, and a garlic marinade. Then they're sandwiched between 2 layers of fresh onion, tomato, and bell pepper. Our chef tops it off with loads of feta cheese and an olive oil lemon mixture, then tosses the plate in the oven.
I don't think I've ever had cheese melted on a fillet unless it was a filet-o-fish.
A lot of people ain't crazy about it.
You kind of like it?
I enjoy it.
Delicious.
That's really good. These are the flavors I think of when I think Mediterranean. It's so fresh. You got the lemon, the olive oil, the fresh vegetables. It's really incredible. I like the cheese a lot. It adds a little personality.
But this sexy dish isn't enough to hold back my temptation to add even more to the table. So Spiro has nominated Best in Show of Black Sea Bass.
Black sea bass is a local fish from the ocean. It's a nice fish. It's fatty.
And what's the best way? Do you like score it and fry it, or you grill it?
No, we just grill it whole.
Our second fish for today's meal is gutted and clean. Next, it's flavored with salt, pepper, garlic, and homemade spices before being grilled whole. While the fish sizzles, I learn more about Baliles.
So, you were born in Greece. When did you come to the USA?
1968. I left the Greece for better life. Well, the United States always is better, you know?
Between the 1950s and 1970s, Greece experienced an exodus of over 1 million, driven by the aftermath of World War II and an economic crisis. America welcomed nearly 130,000 of them. Astoria became home to the second largest Greek diaspora in the world.
My brothers will live in Astoria, a lot of community there. Everything is, most of it is a Greek.
After arriving in the USA, Baliles continued his family's traditional job as a fisherman.
Did you find a better life here?
It's okay, sure. Make a big family, a lot of grandchildren.
12 years ago, he retired and opened Astoria Seafood.
Right here we have the sea bass. Where do I start?
My favorite is the neck part, which is this piece here. This is the clean meat up on top, no bones, no nothing.
Try it out. That's really nice.
It's got a fatty skin, it's got a fatty texture, has a little more character.
I agree. A little bit more flavor to the meat, less neutral. It's a bold flavor, a little bit more oily, a little bit more fatty. It's almost smoky a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good fish.
Can you find food like this all around Astoria?
You'll find good food, you know. And Astoria is a huge melting pot around the 70s and 80s. Astoria was primarily Greek, but now you have maybe 150 different countries, people coming in and out of here, you know, from Vietnamese to Italian to Greek to Egyptian to Moroccan. You have all the cultures in one area.
I still have a lot to learn about New York, but it seems like it makes sense initially when a city like this comes together that in the beginning people would tightly cluster with those who they know, those with whom they share a language and culture and customs and so on. But by the third generation, they're just American. What do you think about the future of Astoria is going to be likely less and less Greek?
Well, I think it's lost a lot of its identity from back in the days, but it's just turning into something a little bit more world-oriented. Our kids grew up with all different cultures. I grew up with all different people. It's just a beautiful thing.
So, no issue, no qualms?
No qualms. That's progress. That's evolution in its neighborhood.
Our most expensive seafood meal takes place in the world's most expensive metropolis, Manhattan. And right now, I'm headed to a restaurant with one of New York's most expensive tasting menus.
Your tasting menu is $298 per person. How do we get to that price?
With me, an offering, my final mystery seafood from Fulton Fish Market. But will it meet the standards of this 2 Michelin star chef?
Chef, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
How you feeling?
Really, really good.
I wish I could say the same. I woke up at 1:50 this morning so I could smell like fish.
Chef James Kent is the conductor in this 2 Michelin starred restaurant known as Saga. His menu is a symphony of European techniques harmonizing with global flavors and inspiration, with seafood playing a prominent role.
For you, what is the biggest challenge in sourcing good quality seafood?
Seafood is almost always bad. And I say that because it has a life, and every fishmonger has this depreciating asset that they got fish to sell. So like even our best fish purveyor, we need to hold their feet to the fire. Like when they said whole fish, you'll see the eyes are clear, and they probably showed you why it is a pristine ingredient. If you like order it filleted, they find the worst fish and fillet and give it to you to see if they'll slip it through.
Well, today I'm the one who is delivering ingredients to you. I see you've got some sea urchins. I've never seen sea urchins like this. It looks like it's grass growing on them instead of these spiky needles. Where do these come from?
So they're diver caught in Massachusetts. They dive down and they dig in and they grab them, they pick them off, bring them up, they'll clean them off. They're excellent, actually. They're very good.
So what do you think of these, the quality of these ones that I brought you today?
I think they look good.
I've had sea urchins in Tokyo, didn't love them, felt like they were really metallic tasting at the end. But then I tried them again in Vietnam, I tried them in the Faroe Islands, loved it, very different flavor. Here, these are from Massachusetts. So should we break into some of these and see how they taste?
So this is the reproductive organ of this. They look like little caviar. That is like a waste product. I've never eaten this before.
I probably accidentally have. It smells really neutral, which I guess is what you want, right?
This is a good thing. You don't want stuff to smell fishy. Smells fishy means that it's old.
Cheers.
Creamy.
Super creamy.
Not that minerally stuff you're talking about.
No, this might be the best one I've ever had.
Only in New York.
This is really good because it's just about that fatty taste and feeling, and there's not a lot of excess baggage to go with it. That is really good. All right, note to self, start cleaning my uni.
The sea urchin is set to become one element in a collection of many coming together to shape the Kento box, a bento box reimagined by Chef Kent.
I love the idea about breaking bread. Especially at this level, traditional fine dining restaurants, they give you one thing, it's perfect, you eat it, and you go away. And then for us, a lot of the things that we do is very much like this. This is shared. And it sits in the center of the table, and you fight over things. But you're like, yo, I'm hungry.
I'll take a whole box.
This vibrant box encourages you to embrace spontaneity. Select any item that appeals to you and savor it in your own unique way.
There's some fat, beautiful scallops.
This is XO sauce. So there's a little bit of spice, and this is a crab jelly.
Only in New York.
That first bite was amazing. Scallop is perfectly cooked, almost like melting on my tongue. The XO sauce has a nice punch to it, a little bit of heat, really good.
Served as the intro to a 7-course tasting menu, this edible work of art reflects the culmination of multiple days of preparation for every single component, plus Chef India's painstakingly meticulous assembly.
So there's a bottom and a top for each box. Top is for the fish, the bottom is for the veg. So this is the sweet potato compressed in olive oil, orange peel, salt, and then we cook it in a sous vide and then it gets fried. The sweet potato chips. We toss in a little bit of cilantro powder.
So what is this base right here?
This is a strudel waffle with chive.
All right, hit it with some uni, hit it with some of that salmon, egg, throw it back.
Every day I look at you and I think
That's awesome.
I must have done.
What kind of fish is right here?
The white is escalar, and then the snapper.
Is this seaweed? Right?
Nori. And this is when it gets fun. You throw one of these on here.
Hit it with some eggs.
Yeah, you switch it up.
Oh.
Dude, there's no wrong way. This is the first thing I've eaten all day.
Me too, except for I had Subway for lunch. But it was like a high-end Subway. Your tasting menu is $298 per person. How do we get to that price?
Initially, when we opened this restaurant, we looked at other restaurants in New York that we playing in the same pool with. So we basically landed at that price point. And then we backed all the food to make sure that the business worked.
And so that's been working.
Yeah, we're doing good. We fooled everyone.
Our final dish, plucked from the tasting menu, is a ramen-inspired soup crafted personally by Chef Kent. He extracts a glistening fish steak from a shining red snapper.
Fish and seafood, they're difficult to work with compared to steak, pork. In spite of that, why do you choose to have such a heavy focus on fish and seafood here?
No, it shows skill. Like to cook a delicate piece of fish where you cook it over just by a few seconds. Man, I get so sad when someone messes up food because like, yo, this fish was swimming in the ocean, living its life, chilling. And I'm like, yo, you f***ed it up. And now we can throw it away.
It deserved more.
When I die, I want them to cure my leg and like slice like prosciutto.
Grilled with a whisper of salt, the snapper steak becomes the centerpiece, harmonizing with a cured quail egg, a decadent cube of foie gras, mung bean noodles, and a slice of pickled radish. The dish enters the table with a steaming pork broth on the side.
It smells amazing. Where should we start?
I would start with the broth. that foie fat, that pork.
Yeah, it's rich, savory, and a little sour too.
Yeah, we like acid.
The snapper's incredible, and it's very salty on top in a good way. The texture is really impressive. It kind of melts in your mouth. Not so different from that scallop. Oh my God, I'm gonna eat these noodles here.
So it's a mung bean noodle. It's not like a pole noodle, so it's not like a spaghetti or like a traditional like ramen noodle where it has like that like bite, that tooth. You know, it's a little
Yeah,
more.
very delicate. Somewhat similar to our rice noodle in how it's delicate and it soaks up that broth right away. Really good. I want to ask, this restaurant has 2 Michelin stars.
Yeah.
Was that always the goal?
Any accolade is a byproduct of a great restaurant. Do I think we have the ability to get 3 stars at some point? I do. Would I want that? 100%. Is that the goal? That is not necessarily the goal. The goal is to create the best restaurant we can. For me, I'm like, we are going to be a great fucking restaurant, and we're going to do the things that we've all done our whole careers at a high level.
But let me ask that though, as a standalone question. If you get the 3, what happens next?
We keep it 3. You know, at the end of the day, the mission doesn't change. We just create a badass fucking restaurant. Like, what's the best that we can do in this space?
Chef?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Let's go.
Appreciate it.
Amazing.
Let's go, White.
Our East Coast cross-country seafood journey continues as we leave New York City's massive Fulton Fish Market and head southward to Maryland. Here, blue crabs are a point of pride and a huge part of this state's culinary identity.
You can eat crab cakes all year round, but if your friend likes you, they will have a crab feast with you.
These frigid waters promote fat growth in the crabs, resulting in a rich, decadent bite. But getting your hands on those decadent crabs is not so easy.
Just kidding. My finger was never in there.
Now, I'm on a mission to follow the journey of a Maryland blue crab from the ocean floor.
You know anybody who's ever lost a finger?
Pretty close.
To the processing facility.
How do you know if there's any shell in there? What, do you have like an X-ray?
And to its final destination, being served up in a sandwich with legs at a local eatery.
This is a behemoth right here. It's got legs sticking out. I love it.
And it all starts right here on the water.
Now, when I first was told I was going to be meeting crabmen, I pictured this. Turns out they're just normal humans who catch crabs. But that's cool too. We'll be hopping on CJ's boat in just a moment. Just off the coast here, he has over 1,500 pots set ready to trap them crabs. Let's pull them up and see what we find.
Right now, we're jumping aboard the floating vessel known as Miss Paula with 26-year crabbing veteran CJ. His daily routine revolves around pulling up hundreds of traps and hoping for the best. Alongside him, Luke McFadden, a young buck with only 8 years in the crabbing game.
Luke, nice to meet you. CJ, how many days a week are we out here?
So I haul gear usually 4 to 5 days a week.
The crabs don't take a day off. Do you take a day off?
I do. We are working to deeper water because this is the best time to catch crabs in Maryland. These crabs are moving to deeper water to hibernate for the winter.
Blue crabs are native to the waters of the Western Atlantic Ocean and the Gulf of Mexico. And more than 1/3 of the USA's blue crab comes from the Chesapeake Bay, the largest estuary in the country. Here, the interplay of salt and fresh water create the ideal conditions for the animals we're after. Every year, during peak season, from April to the end of November, crabbers like CJ and Luke do their best to cash in.
Boom, 2 crabs. He takes the trap, he shakes it out, the crabs fall down, add some bait, and then that is gonna go to the side.
Just like lobsters in Maine, crabs here are caught using traps, also called pots. These pots are designed to make it easy for crabs to enter and not so easy for them to escape. A bait box or pouch is placed inside the trap to lure them in.
These crabs are extremely picky. They want fresh chicken necks, they want fresh fish, they want the best.
Chicken necks is part of their natural diet. It makes sense.
Up to 25 traps are submerged in the water and connected to a line. It's like a free meal for the crabs, but with a little bit of a catch. And a catch is exactly what we're after.
Look at these crabs. Hot spot. There we go.
Oh my God, this thing is gigantic. Holy cow. Look at this dude. Oh no.
You gotta hold him just like that. If your fingers are too far underneath, he'll get a hold of you.
Oh. You ever get pinched?
All the time, every day.
You know, I've seen so much seafood around the world, mostly in Asia, and I've seen so little in my own country. And just the shape of the carapace, how it juts out like some kind of ancient Mongolian warrior wearing a helmet. The claws, the colors, they're really beautiful. Is this a male or a female?
That's a male crab. You can tell it looks like the Washington Monument. The females have the Capitol Dome.
Honestly, that is the G version. It just looks like a penis.
That's what I say.
It's the Washington Monument and the Capitol Dome. Kid-friendly show.
In a good day this time of year, how many crabs are you pulling up?
It's more than a couple, less than a few.
For tax reasons, you don't want to say how many?
Unlike other fisheries negatively affected by climate change, blue crabs are throwing a shell of a party in the warmer waters, with better breeding conditions and all. But the crabbers still need to play it cool with regulations to keep the crab sustainable for the long run.
In Maryland, everything is regulated.
In the beginning of the season, it's a 5-inch male crab limit. A crab under 5¼ inches right now is not legal. Unless it's a peeler crab, it's only got to be 3½ inches.
What is a peeler crab? That means it's about to shed?
Yes, so it's going to show sign on its second swim fin that crab's going to shed within a couple days.
Once checked, the unqualified crab gets a VIP return ticket to the ocean floor. Peeler crabs are brought to CJ's own processing facility, which we'll soon see.
What? It feels so creepy.
Larger crabs hit the market as big shots, sold whole and ready to impress. Meanwhile, the more humble-sized crabs are sent to a processing facility where their meat is extracted. Chesapeake brand seafood sends about 6,000 crabs into containers chock full of oceanic delights every single day. First, piles of crabs are cooked all the way through. Once boiled, the succulent treasure within is meticulously extracted by the hands of skilled pickers. Finally, the meat morsels are sorted by grade, then packaged, shipped, and prepared to undertake a gastronomic journey all around the USA. But if you find yourself in the crab utopia that is Maryland, it would be a culinary transgression not to savor the state's quintessential delight, the crab cake. And what better way to elevate the experience than by enjoying it on a boat with the captain?
Let me tell you a sad story. When I was 22, I had almost no money. I went to the Rainforest Cafe. It's an independent restaurant. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. And I ordered the crab cakes, and then I paid, I don't know, $25. It was a lot of money back then. And it just was a tiny bread disc with maybe the soul of a crab. I'm not even sure if any crab meat actually reached the cake. Then this is the opposite. It's big, beautiful, full of big chunks that you can actually see. These are the best crab cakes I think I've ever seen.
Crab cakes. They're either packed with flour and fillers, or they're made right.
Maryland crab cakes are not a bunch of filler.
Allow CJ to show you how it's done. First, the base mixture.
We're gonna add the J.O. crab cake mix. We're gonna want exactly half a cup of mayonnaise. Perfect. Like a little hot sauce. Like a little mustard, a little Worcestershire sauce, a little parsley for health. Now, the main dish here, we're using jumbo Maryland crab meat, the best on earth.
Once the patties are forged to his exacting standards, they stand ready for the flat top.
Oh, it's big and heavy. Guys, let's dig in. Cheers. Oh, man. Oh, delicious. Big chunks of seasoning. And when it's warmed up like that, it really just brings out the flavor of the crab. I'm getting hits of mayonnaise, I'm getting the seasoning, a little bit of how do you say it?
Worcestershire.
That sauce in there too, but all of it playing beautifully off the crab. The crab meat itself is super tender. It's almost like a fattiness to it. What do you think?
I couldn't be more pleased.
I'm so curious about where this crab ends up, because when you're talking about something like lobster, it's a premium product, it's something everybody wants, and so people are taking the time and effort to ship it across the country and across the world. But when it comes to blue crab, I know the meat might make it everywhere, but the crabs themselves, the fresh animal, the creature, while even still alive, where's that getting to?
The crabs caught in Maryland in Chesapeake Bay, probably 90 or 95% are eaten in Maryland. They do not leave because demand is that high. So actually we ship a lot of crabs, Louisiana, Texas, North Carolina, South Carolina. A huge portion of their crabs also come to Maryland. So Maryland is just really the live blue crab eating capital of the world.
What is it about these blue crabs that people love so much?
It really is, in a lot of ways, like the heart and soul of Maryland.
It's like when you come to Maryland, like you gotta try a crab cake.
If your friend likes you, they will have a crab feast with you.
Mm-hmm.
If you come to Maryland and you don't get to experience a crab feast,
you need better friends.
Yeah, get better friends.
When it comes to pint-sized crabs like these, the task of breaking through their shells for each minuscule morsel of meat can be tedious.
I've tried opening up small crabs. I get through the claws. When I get to the body, I just give up.
But what if I told you CJ has found a solution?
Whoa.
Next, we're heading to his house, where I'll eat an entire crab whole, including the shell.
Poor guy. He's probably like, what the fuck?
I feel everything.
CJ's house is like a crab laboratory, a crabratory, with cages stacked up high and every corner serving as a different workshop for his crab experiments. Yet the true treasures lie hidden within his garage.
CJ, right now we're in your creepy crab laboratory.
This is where the magic happens. We bring the peelers, the crabs that are very close to molting or shedding their shells. We put them in here, and then when they shed out their shells and turn into soft crabs, you help them out of the shell right into the frying pan. The best eating crab you're gonna get. That's what we sell as a soft crab that would be eaten whole.
A crab doesn't grow its shell, rather it molts, shedding the old exoskeleton, squeezing its way out, then forming a new one. In a lifetime, a blue crab molts about 20 times.
This crab shed last night, and you can see here, the crab can't even hold its claws up. It's so soft that it's just kind of hanging out. This is the most valuable crab for me.
These softies can sell for over twice the price of a typical hard shell. That's why CJ undergoes the tedious process of crab sitting.
What? It feels so creepy. It's leathery. I've never touched a crab like this. Oh, you poor guy. He's looking at me like,
man, if I had any stiffness to my claws, I'd bite you in the finger.
But you can't. Wow. That is a new one for me. That's really cool to see. So in this instance, you're gonna be eating the entire crab, the claws, the shell, the carapace, everything. Is that right?
Yes, you eat everything. We cut the face and the eyes off, the devil, and then the apron.
Good, I don't want it looking at me.
Yes, it won't be looking at you.
CJ's approach to soft shell crab cooking is pure simplicity, treating it much like a premium steak. Onto a hot skillet it goes with butter and a sprinkle of JO seasoning. This is the main event, but before we sink our teeth into that, we're having a full-on crab boil. Just toss today's catch into a giant steamer. Sprinkle it with a dash of JO seasoning, let the fire kick in, and you'll know it's feasting time when those crabs blush into a vibrant red hue.
This reminds me of what I've experienced in the South when I went to Alabama, and they have a crawfish boil, and they have just a giant vessel filled with 10,000 crawfish. They put it out all over the table. It's kind of like your version of that.
Maybe that's their version of this.
Yeah.
Well said. Cheers to that.
So this is a classic Maryland summertime scene right here. There's a pile of crabs. You just go at it with some friends.
Let's get into it.
I like starting with the claws.
What is the strategy here?
I'll just try to break it, you know, on the table. That way.
Oh, that worked. Wow, this meat looks incredible. It's kind of dark.
The claw meat.
Delicious, juicy, sweet. That JO seasoning tastes like pepper, tastes like cayenne. That's real good. Now, if I want to get into this body, how would I do that?
All right, you pick the apron, like that.
The Washington Monument?
Yep. Okay. And then you're gonna pull the top shell off right there.
Yep.
That's actually an undeveloped shell, so that crab was gonna shed in the near future. You can eat that, and that is good.
Oh yeah.
It's really good.
Whoa, completely different experience. It's briny, salty, super fatty, and even a touch bitter, depending on what's connected to there. So this is the hard shell crab. This is something that's a little bit more familiar to me, even though I've not had it with this seasoning or done up in this way. Incredible. But next, the soft shell crab, a crab that just shed yesterday. It's basically as soft as it can be. The meat, it still has that leathery feel to the outside. It's still flexible. It's very disconcerting.
It's got legs.
But tantalizing at the same time. Cheers. Whoa.
Very different than the crab cakes or the hard crabs.
That is so different.
So the legs have their own kind of taste, flavor to them, the body itself.
This is wild. This is one of the most delicious things I've ever had in my face. I get why you have a super creepy garage now.
Absolutely.
What's wild too is if you eat a hard shell crab like this, I mean the real estate, there's not that much left compared to eating the entire soft shell crab, and every bite is magic.
It's like juicy. I know that sounds weird, but it's almost like a casing on like a sausage, you know?
Yeah, that's a great way to explain it, because you take a bite, the skin is kind of tight around the outside, and your teeth break through that, and you get to that juicy core on the inside.
They're delicious. That's got to be one of the better eaten things coming out of this bay, for sure.
How often are you doing something like this? This is all potential profit right here.
I can't afford to eat my crabs.
Neither can I.
Don't get high on your own supply of crabs. CJ soft-shell crabs become a better value when sold to restaurants, where they can turn into culinary gold, like here at Ocean Odyssey Crab House, a seafood restaurant that's matched a love for seafood with a sense of adventure with their sandwich, known as Bay on a Bun.
The unique thing about this sandwich is it encapsulates the best things that the bay has to offer, from crabs, oysters, and fish. First, we're gonna dredge the fish, a little egg wash, and our seasoned flour. And then the same with the soft crab. And the oysters, we'll go straight into the flour.
They're all treated to a nice long fry. Now it's time for the build.
All right, so we have our toasted bun. Start with a bed of mixed greens, and we'll stack the catfish, followed by the soft crab, and the oysters. A little sauce. So this is a tomatillo aioli and Mary Rose sauce, and that is how you make the bay on the bun.
This is a massive Leviathan. It's got legs sticking out. I love it.
Joining me, Ocean Odyssey co-owner Travis.
If I'm not mistaken, this is your brainchild.
Yeah.
It's not just the soft shell inside it. We've got fish, we've got oysters, everything on the bay inside this bun. Let's go for it.
Oh yeah.
That is a whole different experience. So yesterday I had a soft shell crab that had just shed the night before, and then it was pan seared. And it was soft, tender, juicy. I would compare it to a spicy cheddar Johnsonville brat that was half filled with crab meat. That's my white trash comparison. But this is all fried, so it changes the texture a little bit.
Sure, you get that extra crunch.
It's tough to tell in the moment what you're chewing on. There's like some brinier bites that I think must be the oyster. There's some really hot chunks, which I think must be the fish, because it's holding all that heat. But that crab still has that skin on the outside. It's partially crispy, still partially like a sausage skin that snaps as you chew through it.
Exactly.
Plus you got the sauce, nice and creamy, bringing it all together, and a little bit of vegetables, you know, for fiber.
That's right.
I guess.
Need some vitamins in there.
Tell me about being a seasonal restaurant, because this is kind of new to me and something that it feels unexpected for the USA, because if anybody has a successful business, people on the outside are like, why isn't there a franchise yet? Why don't you have 5 locations? Why aren't you working 100 hours a week? Meanwhile, you shut the doors every winter.
We do. We're a crab house. That's a big part of what we are. You know, the crab season is from April until sometimes December, November. Now that's the harvesting season. So if they're in the Chesapeake Bay, we've got them. If they're not, if they're moving, which they do, or if it's the wintertime and they're buried in the mud, we kind of go into a hibernation just like the crabs do.
What begins as a small, scuttling marvel of nature transforms into a powerhouse resource, leaving an indelible mark on the state of Maryland. The blue crab isn't just a piece of cultural heritage, drawing in tourists who are eager to savor the state's distinct seafood, but it also serves as an economic goldmine for hard-working locals.
You've both been doing this a good chunk of time, and a lot of people, they just see the end product, whether it's at the store or in a restaurant, but they don't really have access to the first step of sourcing these ingredients. So for you guys, what would you say are the biggest challenges that you and other crabmen are facing?
Our profit margin has shrunk over the last 20 years since I started doing it, because everything has increased exponentially, but the price of crabs has only gone up kind of slowly.
I agree. I mean, it's, really it's how much money can you get for what you can catch, because with a lot of the new regulation coming into play, you're gonna hit caps here eventually. And so like the approach I've taken is a little different than most guys. I really just wanted to sell more crabs, so I catch all my own like CJ, but I sell all my own direct to the customer.
For both of you, you both have had this journey on social media, online. Where do you hope that ends up?
Like I always say, something for my grandkids to see down the line. They'll get to know what I did.
I just saw social media as a really, really good way to build a customer base, but also give an insight into who catches your food, how your food actually gets from where it is to the table, and bridge that kind of gap, because it's something that people have no idea, and they don't realize that like in America, there's still a really strong, sustainable, healthy commercial fishing fleet. Most people think of fishermen as people that just want to take, and leave nothing behind. But to us, we're dependent on the resource. And so we're the ones that are most interested actually in finding ways to make sure that we can go to work and feed our families.
Our East Coast seafood tour is taking us all the way here to the oyster capital in Virginia.
Eat it raw, nothing on it to start.
Nothing on it. This is full of seawater.
This multi-million-dollar industry is responsible for the harvesting of millions of oysters each year.
Virginia is the top 3 oyster producers in the country.
But bringing these mollusks to maturity isn't as straightforward as you might think.
Even in the same body of water, the way the sun hits it, the depth of the water, the oysters can have a different flavor.
Now, I'm on a mission to see how farmers raise the eastern oyster, a high-end delicacy for some,
Oh my God,
and a complete nightmare for others.
Every year, some people die from eating oysters that are raw. Is that correct? How important is oyster farming to Virginia?
It's essential. It's a core staple coming out of the region.
Meet Tom, former broke college kid turned fanatic oysterpreneur. Today, he'll show me the entire oyster rearing process, from farm to mouth.
Virginia is the top 3 oyster producers in the country. The Chesapeake Bay is one of the largest bodies of water that houses oysters in the world.
The Chesapeake Bay is the USA's largest estuary, where the river meets the sea. It crosses 6 states, including Virginia. Its unique blend of fresh water and salt water creates a dynamic, nutrient-rich environment, perfect for raising the highest grade of oysters in the world. But how does the oyster raising process begin?
So everything starts with the nursery.
Correct.
Can we check that out first?
Absolutely, let's do it.
This is Oyster Seed Holdings, and this is owner, researcher Mike.
Oysters have a 2-part life cycle. They have a larval phase first and then the adult phase second. Inside in the hatchery is where we do all the larval work. Once they get big enough, we can get them out of larval culture and put them into a setting process that allows them to get through metamorphosis. Once we get them through metamorphosis, they kind of get kicked out of the hatchery, out here where Mother Nature is providing all the food, and we'll put them into these tanks and flow lots of water past them.
So these are all little baby oysters.
They are.
At this stage, these tiny babies are ready to be shipped out to farmers like Tom, who will grow them to full size over a matter of years.
All right, so we've seen the nursery, but from here, we're gonna see how you cultivate the oysters right here in the ocean.
Let's go see it.
So right now we've just entered the oyster field. There are a lot more pelicans than I expected. I think that could be a side business. Pelican meat. This is my second time being to an oyster farm. The first time was actually in Vietnam, and let me tell you, it was quite a bit different. In Vietnam, they have these giant wood lattices made from bamboo. From the lattices, they have some strings or ropes suspended that the oysters are then connected to, and you can kind of pull them up in clumps. This is completely different.
What's different about what we do is we are raising these oysters at the surface of the water column, where the food is the most plentiful. The first 18 inches is where the most light penetration is and the most water flow is. So there's more algae available. When you suspend them, the further you get into the water column, the less algae you're gonna have.
So we're about to pull this one up. What's gonna be inside here?
These are gonna be our oysters that we put out at 1/4 inch. That was about 90 days ago. So let's pull them up and see what they look like.
Tom exclusively farms East Coast native oysters.
If you can help guide that on there.
Okay, yeah, that's how it's on that side.
And we're up. Sonny, we also could have used the crane. Like, what are we thinking here? You know, we gotta use our backs.
I thought this was a sailboat.
These bivalves have the special ability to filter and clean 50 gallons of water each day, absorbing nutrients from algae and plankton.
You look in there.
Oh, wow.
In these nutrient-rich waters, they can grow from a 1/4 inch to this in as short as 90 days.
When these went in initially, they were just big enough to not come out of this net.
Yes, exactly.
But these are still the little babies.
These are tiny.
Some oysters, blessed with good genes, can grow at shocking speeds. This bag also contains 90-day-old oysters, but some have already reached their mid-stage of development.
So these are quite a bit bigger, and actually, some of them look like they're fully grown.
I would call that a market oyster.
You might think that managing thousands of oysters, all growing and maturing at different speeds, would be quite a logistical challenge, and it might be, unless you have one of these. Tom's very own processing facility. Once a bag of oysters fills up, it's brought here.
The oysters are being carried up this hopper, and they're being broken down into 3 sizes. So we have the first drop, second drop, and the third drop. The first and second drop are much further away to market size. The third drop is very close to market.
Every oyster here is categorized according to size. Then you put it back in the mesh bag with similar oysters of the same size, throw it back in the water.
Correct.
On average, an oyster makes 5 round trips between this tumbler and the water, and eventually they plump up to their full adult size. Now they're ready to be shucked and eaten alive.
This is quite a bit bigger than the other ones we just saw. From nursery to becoming this size, how long is that?
18 to 24 months.
That's an incredible amount of effort.
It's actually relatively fast for the industry. Up in Canada, sometimes those oysters take up to 4 years to get them out.
Yeah, but Canadians.
That's right. We demand excellence here in the United States.
He wedges the knife in there, gets leverage on it.
You want to cut that adductor muscle off the top, throw that boy overboard.
Show the other oysters what's up.
And then you get a nice, meaty, succulent bad boy right there. Eat it raw, nothing on it to start. But then we'll go into the other stuff.
I mean, nothing on it. This is full of seawater. So you drink all the liquid too?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Electrolytes.
So good.
Okay, it was overwhelming at first. There's a lot to handle. It's a salty blast, briny, but the meat has a nice bite to it. It didn't feel slimy. It's interesting because it's not cold, it's not chilled, but it's super fresh.
Right out of the water.
Overall, I'm impressed. I like it. Let's put some stuff on it now.
All right, let's do it.
So we're putting some sauce on it. What do you got here?
So this is a little Laotian fish sauce from my mysterious friend who lives like an hour and a half north of me.
Well, you had me at Laotian sauce. I'm sold already. A little bit of lemon. Cheers.
That's the ticket.
It's like an Asian Tabasco. It's spicy, lots of powerful flavors. Oofda, that is really nice. You know, if folks haven't been to an oyster bar, it's kind of this, different versions of oysters mixed with booze.
We got a little bit of champagne.
I mean, yeah. He brought a freaking katana. All right, and he looked up how to do this on ChatGPT.
Ready?
Hey!
Woo! Doesn't get any better than that. That's it, baby.
Is this something you guys do a lot?
With new guests coming from Vietnam, absolutely.
We have the oyster with caviar. It's a type of caviar I've not seen before. This is from trout?
Smoked trout roe. Nice little bite on there.
Yeah, those eggs are nice. They just pop every time you bite into it. A little explosion, oily, and a wonderful mix with that briny oyster. I don't know, I feel like I just made out with Ariel. Let's wash it down with some champagne.
Cheers to Ariel.
I can get used to this. So this is all you do, basically.
This is it. This is the life.
People think farming's hard. It's not.
It's so simple.
How long have people been farming versus just going out and trying to get wild oysters?
The cultivation of wild oysters has been happening since the beginning of time. Humans have been trying to farm them in some way. They send a whole bunch of boats out, bring them back to shore, and just leave them there, and they can have this plentiful oyster that they can just kind of go back to whenever they want.
So these oysters, where do these head from here?
Everything is sold nationally, so you can go on our website, whitestoneoysters.com, and buy oysters, and we ship anywhere in the country.
I love seeing how different ingredients are sourced. That's kind of what this whole series is all about. But from here, I'm gonna see where these ingredients end up. I think I've had almost every type of banh mi that exists in Vietnam, never with oysters. And that is happening next.
Remember oyster scientist Mike?
That's a 2mm oyster.
Just last year, his team at Oyster Seed Holdings opened a food truck serving an innovative oyster menu, sourced from the very farmers they supply.
These look incredible. What are they flavored with?
But before I get too excited, there is one possible catch. The rarely spoken of seafood bacteria that kills dozens of Americans each year.
Some say that oysters are dangerous. What can you do here to prevent people from suffering negative consequences from eating this delicious food?
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate the question. I'd love to elaborate it on it.
Let's start with the eating part. Start by popping open the oyster shells and throwing them on the grill. Now create 3 different flavors with 3 different butters.
We have a chipotle bourbon butter, a sweet chili, and garlic, a little bit of white wine in there.
Oh, white wine, I like that.
Scott, the mastermind behind this food truck, crafted a perfect menu for lab visitors to savor a satisfying meal following their exploration of the oyster hatchery. After just a few minutes, the butter bomb melts, drowning each patch of protein in pure flavor.
I want to try the garlic one first, and you just dump the whole thing back?
We do.
All right, here we go. Oh my God.
So good.
Oh man. The oysters here are incredible. These obviously buttery, garlicky, incredible flavor, and the texture, the bite changes when you cook it up a bit. It's like a little bit more dense and not at all slimy.
Yeah, and the Chesapeake Bay region has been huge in oysters for centuries.
What is so special about this place?
You know, oysters take on the taste of the place that they are. If you're really close to the ocean, oysters can be really salty. When you get away from the ocean and get a lot of freshwater input into these rivers, you get lots of kind of sweet flavors that blend into that salty flavor.
Speaking of salty, what is this one again?
Sweet chili.
It looks so good. Oh my God, it's buttery, a little bit sweet, not too much of a kick from the chili, very nice. Oh, they're all just so rich and delicious. These are some of the best oysters I've ever had.
One of the reasons that we serve oysters this way is that we're trying to kind of convert people to oyster eaters.
And we were talking about maybe doing a pork banh mi, and we realized that maybe an oyster banh mi would be the way to go.
Well, it's not gonna take much to convince me to try a banh mi, so.
Kick off this recipe by mixing shucked oysters with eggs and Cajun seasoning. Strut the mixture through a sieve to ditch any excess egg goo. Now coat the oysters in a frying batter fortified with Cajun seasoning. Once fully coated, give them a sizzle. Now for our carby vessel. Throw the banh mi on the griddle to toast it up. Fill it up with crispy oysters, pickled daikon, pickled carrots, cilantro, and pickled onions. And finally, a special creamy house sauce to tie everything together.
I think I've had almost every type of banh mi that exists in Vietnam, never with oysters. Let's give it a shot. This is awesome. Super crunchy, a nice tang from those sour pickled vegetables. Who knew? Oysters, man.
Scott knew.
You season the breading that goes on top of it, right? Yeah, I'm just blown away by the texture. It's meaty, and honestly, my first guess wouldn't even be oyster. If you just gave it to me and I had a blind taste test. Some people may be apprehensive to try oysters because of the texture, but I've heard people out there who are afraid for their safety.
Vibriosis is an infection primarily transmitted to humans through the consumption of raw seafood, especially oysters.
Every year there are casualties. Some people die from eating oysters, I assume that are raw. Is that correct?
You are correct.
In the USA, the disease claims the lives of 100 people each year.
So my question is, what can people do, or what can you do here to prevent people from suffering negative consequences from eating this delicious food?
Sure. I think the oyster industry is a very safe way to get your food. One of the things that's super important is getting oysters cold. So Vibrio is something that typically happens in the summer months. As long as you get the shell stock down to temperature very quickly, then there's nothing to worry about at all. You can eat them raw, you can eat them cooked, doesn't matter. Anybody who knows that they might have some type of immunocompromised condition should definitely avoid raw shellfish, same as you should avoid other types of raw food. And I mean, there's actually more illnesses and deaths from eating raw vegetables than there are from eating raw shellfish.
Oh wow, hold on, how many people die a year just from choking on food? Number of deaths due to choking in the United States in 2021, 5,000 people. More people are dying from choking on an oyster than from the actual bacteria that it may contain.
It's an unfortunate but very rare occurrence.
Gentlemen, this was incredible. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you coming.
Just 72 miles from the ocean, in Virginia's capital of Richmond, we'll see what oyster magic can be worked in a full-size kitchen with top-shelf ingredients. In this historic metropolis, where the food scene mirrors the diversity of its residents, we find ourselves at a restaurant known as Boathouse.
You know, just when I think I can't eat oysters any other way, I see this, and it looks amazing.
This restaurant, nestled in a repurposed 1860s power plant, offers a stunning setting and serves up the finest locally sourced cuisine.
These specific oysters are Chapel Creek. Interesting thing is, Chapel Creek doesn't have proper refrigeration to hold oysters overnight, so they just drive the hour and 15 minutes, and we have the freshest oysters in town.
For our first course, the oysters are shucked, then lavished with a thick hollandaise sauce. Give them a quick toast in the pizza oven.
Our chef created this as a Christmas Eve feature last year.
Then, to dial up the extravagance, add a delicate sprinkle of caviar.
Oh my God. Oh yeah.
A little salt from the caviar.
Beautiful, creamy sauce.
Kind of a lemon finish.
And there's just like no brininess to it. I'm a guy who can enjoy some brininess, but that is delicious. It's creamy. I feel like I'm eating a seafood version of Eggs Benedict.
That's a good analogy.
This oyster really reminds me of something I've had in Vietnam. Now, in Vietnam, they like to put cheese on the oyster, melt it, and then they eat it like that. This, to me, tastes like a slightly more refined version of that, where it's not necessarily cheesy, but really creamy, kind of coats your mouth, and that taste stays with you. It's excellent. Right here we have the Rockefeller. These oysters are a staple of this region.
The Rockefeller presentation, I think it was invented in Antoine's in New Orleans.
Let's start with the Rockefeller mix. In a sizzling frying pan, they melt butter, then toss in onion, celery, and garlic. Pour in heavy cream and add cayenne pepper, black pepper, and a healthy dose of Parmesan cheese.
So this is a classic presentation. We did not make this up.
And they should taste really lovely.
As it thickens, introduce spinach. Then ladle this Rockefeller concoction over the oysters. Sprinkle on crispy bacon bits, and finally give it a few minutes under high heat.
That bacon is crunchy. It's a perfect crunch to go with that really tender oyster. It's slightly heavy, slightly briny, and so the flavors of the bacon and oyster are really intermingling well. That's excellent. That's really incredible. I'm from Minnesota. It's not a seafood state. We have a Red Lobster. That's it. But here, we're very close to the ocean. Is this a place where people take pride in seafood?
I think we're spoiled because we have great seafood. It's easily accessible. You know, we have high expectations for it. And we really take pride in who delivers it and the freshness of it and how it looks.
Gentlemen, this is incredible. The food is incredible, and I love what you've done here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Our East Coast seafood tour is taking us all the way down to South Carolina. Here, you'll find the USA's most valuable, most popular seafood.
I didn't realize that the way you catch it actually affects the texture and the flavor.
Our day begins on St. Helena Island, a place perhaps best known for its connection to Gullah culture.
We are different kind of people. We tend to show up, stand up, and speak up.
Language.
Good morning, girl. I gotta say, they clean.
And of course, Gullah food.
How would you convince somebody that they should try the tail of an ox?
But who are the Gullah, and how has their history shaped food in the USA? The answers all start on the water. Groupers, oysters, and blue crabs in South Carolina are any chef's dream. Yet the creek shrimp steals the show.
Came up from the bayou.
Using the craft passed down by his father and grandfather, 72-year-old Mr. Atkins has been shrimping for the better part of his life.
My dad used to make a net, hand-thrown net. When you deal with the kind of shrimp I deal with, you have to try to keep it live. And when you pull a trawl net, you stresses the shrimp out. They die a lot faster. When they die like this, they get mushy.
The brown and white shrimp harvested from the region's shallow, brackish waters are among the world's finest.
Has anything changed over time when it comes to shrimping?
One time I could take this net right here and I can go for 3 or 4 hours and I'll have this thing here full. Now I'm lucky if I get it about a quarter of that.
So what are the regulations surrounding shrimp so that 10 years from now there are still shrimp remaining?
You have a certain season that they allow you to shrimp sometime like in end of April till about November. Mid-November they'll only allow you to catch 12 dozen.
Today, Mr. Atkins' harvest is set to create a hearty breakfast.
I've had grits before, but not like this.
Some alluring street food.
I don't think that I've ever had shark meat in the USA.
And a grand feast that will feed 8.
This is something I've been missing in my life.
It all kicks off with BJ in his combat kitchen.
BJ?
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning. Girl, I gotta say, they clean.
Oh, is that part of Gullah language?
It's one of the phrases in the culture. New day, sunrise.
Meet BJ, a personal chef, caterer, and torchbearer of Gullah heritage. He actively works to bring his culture and traditions to the forefront through his social media and culinary skills, including the mastery of crafting the perfect shrimp and grits.
Our shrimp has a distinct flavor. You know, like they're nice, they're tender, they're sweet, they're succulent. I've tasted shrimp from the Gulf up to Florida Keys, but these are special.
After cleaning the shrimp, BJ throws them into a skillet with some fat and lets them sizzle until the meat is firm.
When I was with Mr. Atkins, I learned a couple things about shrimp. He said if you stress it out too much, it's gonna be mushy, it's gonna be bad. Well, right now they seem very calm.
He adds onion, a pinch of salt, even more fat, and 2 generous scoops of roux.
Now, I just use water because coming up, my family, grandparents, anybody I knew was just water. The shrimp kind of gives you that body that you're looking for. Like the old people say, you make your own gravy. You make your own gravy.
Oh, it makes its own gravy. Hey, I'm getting better at this. I didn't know there was a whole different language here. That's wild.
He reunites the shrimp with the gravy and garnishes the dish with scallions. Next to the skillet, a bubbling pot of grits is seasoned with salt and butter.
Well, you in the low country, this is the region where shrimp and grits, we say, originated. So for me, the grits that you see here, they gotta be old school heirloom grits. The way my grandparents would eat grits, you know, the corn, the woody corn, they would have took it to the mill and stone ground. It can't be the stuff out the store that takes 15 to 20 minutes. These took literally an hour, but when you taste them, man, they're like fluffy, they're heirloom, old school.
Amazing. Gentlemen, this looks amazing. What do you think of this?
Beautiful.
Well, hold on. Before we started rolling, you said a little bit too dark.
This gravy will work for the shrimp, but it'd be better for it was in the oyster.
Okay, it looks great to me.
I ain't gonna fuss with them.
That's good, Benjamin.
That's nice. Oh, it's steaming hot too, just right out of the pan. The texture of the grits is really incredible. Yeah, it's fluffy. The shrimp are outstanding, great texture, and then this just beautiful, thick, savory gravy on top. This is so addictive, but it's so heavy.
You know, this is one of those meals that back in the days, probably before my time, when people were still living off the land, this is your fuel. This is your heavy meal for the morning, right? This to get your day going. This is probably your heaviest meal in those days.
I don't know if I would make it away from the breakfast table after eating this. It's like either I'm gonna have enough energy for a whole day, or I'm just gonna fall asleep with my face on my plate.
With this breakfast, I'm just beginning to scratch the surface of Gullah culture. But by day's end, BJ plans to immerse me in the essence of Gullah food.
This speaks Gullah. You see this right here.
In order to fully embrace it, my first step is to learn more about the story of this community.
This area was one of the first areas where one of the first slave revolts happened. And many of our ancestors were sought after in the Senegambia region, Senegal, Gambia, Sierra Leone, Congo, Mali.
In the 1700s, West Africans were brought to the Sea Islands for plantation labor. Yet harsh conditions and prevalent diseases led landowners to desert the islands in summer.
And when they left all the enslaved here, they were able to kind of hold on to a lot of the Africanisms, some of the language and some of the foodways. You also have influence of the Native Americans here also too. And you also have the European influence. And that just kind of made it to the Gullah culture.
The vibrant Gullah culture still pulses today in this tight-knit South Carolina community of 200,000. St. Helena is the heart of the centuries-old culture, cradling a landmark iconic to Gullah history.
Penn Center and the community goes hand in hand. Without Penn Center, you wouldn't have the community.
There, I'll soon join community leaders for an old-fashioned shrimp boil.
You're eating history where it started right here with this dish.
But first, I have more to learn about Gullah food, and there's no better place to be educated than the Gullah Express.
Sherry, I brought you some shrimp.
Why, thank you.
Sherry is the proud owner and operator of Gullah Express, a food truck bringing authentic Gullah flavors to the people of St. Helena. With these freshly caught shrimp, she'll whip up her bestseller.
This patty looks gorgeous.
But first, Sherry teases my appetite with a surprise.
Right here we have shark.
Fried shark.
I don't think that I've ever had shark meat in the USA. What is the history behind this?
You know, we live on the coast, so we get a lot of fresh seafood, and I grew up eating shark ever since I've been a little girl. We would fry it, we would put it in gravy on grits. However,
here, the shark meat is simply coated with flour, then deep fried.
What do you like about shark in particular?
The taste, the texture is just meat. I don't have to pick any bone.
I'm used to that now.
Now?
Because I live in Asia. Right here, you can see this is kind of the midsection of the shark, and it was hacked into kind of a shark steak. I'm gonna rip that in half. There's like the bone in the middle there still, but everything around it is this beautiful meat. Oh man, that's to die for. It's juicy, flaky, you got a little bit of crust on the outside, and then just a little hit of seasoning, salt. Sometimes shark can be mushy if you overdo it. This is perfect.
Yeah, it has to be cut right. If it's not cut right, then it's gonna be tough.
With over 25 years of culinary experience, Sherry embarked on a new venture in 2019 by launching Gullah Express. Here, she's infused the menu with Gullah classics that have been given a little bit of a twist. Her bestseller, the shrimp burger. After cleaning the shrimp, Sherry places them in a processor, mincing the meat down for a shrimp patty.
I'm gonna add some crab. I don't need a whole lot. We were always doing a shrimp burger, so I wanted to do something different. That's when I said, well, let me try the shrimp and crab burger. And that would be something different, people never had before. So I tried it out and it was a big hit, and I just went with that. I'm gonna need some seasoning. I'm gonna also add a little bit of breadcrumb, and I'm gonna mix that up some more. Now, I have to taste it. I taste it raw because you have to know that it's seasoned. You don't want to buy something and it has no taste. And after that, I just make it into a ball. I'm going to put it in the batter, in the flour batter, and then I'm going to roll it around in there, and then I'm going to mash it out. Give it about 3 to 4 minutes, and it'll be ready.
This patty looks gorgeous.
That's why I don't want to put any lettuce or tomato or nothing. It takes away from the taste.
If you want a salad, get a salad. This is not that. This is like a beautiful, lovely patty. It's crusty on the outside. I can feel the heat radiating off it. It's making the buns more soft and warm on the outside. Let's go for it. That's very nice. I don't think that I've ever had a shrimp burger in the US. The only time I've had it is in McDonald's in Korea and Japan. They have a shrimp burger. It wishes it was this. That's like a very basic industrial. It's probably pressed by some kind of meat printing machine. This has this incredible homemade feel to it. And it's like those little imperfections that make it perfect. Some parts are a little thicker, some are a little thin and more crunchy. And there's a certain springiness that you get from a shrimp patty that you won't get from any other type of. You're not gonna get it from chicken or beef. It's really unique to what you're doing here.
It's my #1 seller.
I can see why. That's awesome. I want to back up a little bit and ask you more about Gullah food. For you, what is Gullah food?
Well, to me, Gullah food is anything you get, you can't waste it, period. Like we would cook with neck bone, pigtail, anything from hog, anything from chicken. That's what we would use or call our Gullah food.
Sounds like a tenet of Gullah cooking is resourcefulness.
Exactly.
With the Atlantic Ocean nearby, Gullah cuisine significantly relies on seafood, complemented by staple ingredients like rice and grits, rooted in historical cultivation practices.
It's just simple cooking. You don't have to put a spin on it. Like you got shrimp and grits. Most of the time, the restaurant, they're a little fancy. They put these Parmesan seasoning and onions and bacon. No, shrimp and grits is just shrimp and grits.
I think I had that this morning.
That's it.
Over time, Gullah flavors and techniques have made their mark in kitchens across America, with one-pot dishes and cast-iron cookware being prominent examples. You'll soon witness some one-pot cooking in our final meal.
I've never seen oxtail with shrimp.
For us, that's a classic pairing.
The first in our two-course feast is a Gullah one-pot classic, Frogmore stew. BJ prepares a soup base in a giant pot with water, garlic powder, Old Bay seasoning, salt, hot crab seasoning, fresh onion, and chilies. Once the seasoned water is boiling, he tosses in chunks of corn and potatoes. Then sausage joins the pot, and finally, the shrimp. While BJ is busy in his outdoor kitchen, I'm heading inside Penn Center School, where Marie walks me through the history of this landmark.
Penn Center and the community goes hand in hand. Without Penn Center, you wouldn't have the community. And it started out as the Port Royal experiment.
The outbreak of civil war in 1860 placed St. Helena Island under Union control, leading to the initiation of the Port Royal experiment in 1861. This experiment, aiming to transition the region from a slave-dependent society to one rooted in freedom, brought emancipation to St. Helena.
In 1863, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation freeing all other enslaved people. As you can see, we were already emancipated before the document was signed. We are different kind of people. We tend to show up, stand up, and speak up.
In 1862, the Port Royal experiment, entitled The Newly Emancipated People Here with the Right to Buy Former Plantation Lands at Low Prices.
And with land ownership comes great power. There was never, ever a sharecropper system established on St. Helena's Island.
Furthermore, the experiment led to the establishment of hospitals and schools. Penn School opened in 1862 as one of the nation's earliest institutions for the formerly enslaved.
This school was the beacon of hope in educating the black people in the Low Country. This was the only school a black person living in the state of South Carolina could earn the high school diploma.
Today, Penn Center is a cultural center and a museum of African American history, where Marie and her colleagues tirelessly uphold and showcase the richness of Gullah culture that can be seen and even tasted.
Before we begin, I do want to say thank you to everyone for being here today. It's quite an honor for me to kind of eat a piece of history today. And I've learned a lot already about the Gullah people and food, and my favorite way to learn is through eating.
So this is a low country boil. Some people call it frogmore stew. Actually, this originated here on this island.
I'm gonna go for this corn first. You said that the corn is kind of soaked up.
Yeah, it's soaked a little too much than what I like, but it's flavorful. It got a little kick.
It's delicious. It's super salty. It has a lot of kick. A load of cayenne. This is like cayenne corn. All right, we got potatoes. Oh my God. Everything has soaked up those amazing flavors. Ooh, even that sausage is spicy. It's slow burn that creeps up on you. I think the flavor is just a beautiful mix, a blend between what the shrimp is offering and this powerful sausage. It's salty and smoky.
It's like a homemade sausage to me. We used to make back then. When we butchered a pig, we used to make our own sausages, old-time sausage.
So I want to ask about the shrimp. Are you eating the shell or are you peeling that yourself?
Peeling it.
Okay. They taste amazing. I'm curious, for this dish, why cook it with the shells on?
Traditionally always how it's been. I think it also helps preserve the flavor.
People boil shells for shrimp stock. You know what else it helps? It helps people to pump their brakes a little bit when they're eating.
Take your time, right?
It turns like a 5-minute meal into a 30-minute meal.
Our second one-pot dish and final Gullah taste of the day, oxtail soup. First, BJ brings his pre-made broth to a boil.
I woke up in the middle of the night.
Then he drops his oxtails with various beans in the broth and lets them simmer.
How did the cuisine or the food of the people transform from the time the Gullah came here to what we see today?
We basically cooked the same thing that we did back then. The enslaved people always had the leftovers from the pig, the feet, the tail, and the neck bones. Those are we cook now. And the okra is our main dish. Anything here, whatever you had for dinner, that was breakfast. At lunch, I was taking crab sandwiches for lunch, and I was ashamed to have that.
You?
Yeah.
When you were younger?
Because that wasn't the norm back then. Everyone was having their peanut butter and jelly. I had crab.
That's pretty good though.
Yeah, but being here, you didn't think that because it was plentiful, you ate that so much, you know, and then you had to take the lunch too. So, you know, that was, you know, I'm tired of this. I wanted something else, you know?
Once the oxtail hits the desired softness, BJ loads the pot with chopped okra. He stirs until the broth becomes thick and finishes with a handful of shrimp.
Well, all my dreams are sweet.
All right, I got some of that gravy. I got a shrimp, some rice. It's so heartwarming. I'm gonna do some of that oxtail. Oh, the oxtail, amazing. Super soft, tender, delicious, savory, and just such a cool texture to that stew because it's thick, but it's a little bit slimy from the okra, but in the best way possible.
Yeah. See, with oxtail here, these were the leftover from the slavery time where the enslaved people ate. But now, oxtail has crossed over. It was only that the black folks ate that. I went in the store, man, this white lady had about 6 packs of oxtail in the basket.
You know, a long time ago, that was $2 a pound. Now it's like $8, $9, $10 a pound. And these were the things that were, you thought of as trash, but culturally, even before our ancestors were brought here, they ate every part of the animal. And to this day, that's still a thing. Yeah, this is like culture. Like this speaks Gullah when you see this right here.
For both of you, I'd be happy to hear your answer too. Why is it so important to continue teaching people about the Gullah traditions and perpetuating these traditions?
Because it's a legacy that we want to pass on to our children. There might become a time that you won't have anything in the stores. You can always go back and learn how to survive off the land. And that's how we've learned to survive. We were isolated out here, so we had to learn to survive off the land. So what happened on the other side didn't matter to us because we were independent, self-sufficient people living over here.
You have to understand, like, it's not just one culture that built this country.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, the way we talk, the language, you know, these things that we have to embrace. Or when you lose part of history, you not only you lose part of your culture, you lose part of American history. Right. And it's a very important part of American history.
How do you reconcile America's dark history, dark past with slavery with still having pride in your community and your country now?
The history of this country is a movement toward freedom, and African Americans have been big movers in trying to bring freedom to everybody. So this whole idea about when we benefit, the whole country benefits. Every community can benefit from our movement forward in this continuing journey of freedom. When people freed themselves on this island in 1861, they didn't look back and say, wow, we've been through something really terrible. They looked forward and said, what can we be? You know, how can we project ourselves and be big against the backdrop of life? And every community, everybody of every race needs to take that on. You know, how can we be big? Not be small, but be big.
Now, we've worked our way south, all the way down to the Florida Keys.
Jeez, dolphins! There's like 3 dolphins behind you. That looks awesome.
The Sunshine State is heaven for seafood lovers, from swordfish to mahi-mahi and everything in between. But next, we're after one of this state's most highly regulated underwater dwellers.
If you take the whole body onto land, that is a criminal offense. That is illegal. That is something you cannot do.
That's correct.
Along the way, we'll settle the debate of which is truly superior between the Maine lobster and the Florida lobster with my friend Guga.
There's no comparison.
Oh my God. Sorry, you're triggering me.
It all starts bright and early on the water.
It's a beautiful morning. I gotta say, it's f***ing miserable out here. Right now we're heading out to the trapping area. It's a couple hours off the coast. It's pretty choppy out here. My camera guys are about to puke at any second.
It's a little sporty sometimes.
That's a more positive way to spin it.
Meet Paul, a seasoned 25-year commercial fisherman. He heads out to sea with his crew throughout the year, and they catch whatever's in season, ranging from spearfish and spiny lobster to the much-awaited stone crab.
What is the season for stone crab? Because that's why we're here.
From October 15th till May 1st.
So, oh wow, there's like 3 dolphins behind you. That looks awesome.
I take videos all the time for my kids.
You know, seamen back in the past, they saw dolphins and they thought they were hot mermaids. You ever think a dolphin's a hot mermaid?
No.
The Florida stone crab, able to grow up to 6 inches wide, can be found in the western North Atlantic, including the USA's East Coast. These crabs primarily feed on oysters, mollusks, and a range of crustaceans.
What's really unique about the stone crab is the fact that if you take the whole body onto land, that is a criminal offense.
That's correct. We can only harvest the claws.
Let's pull up some crabs and see how it works.
Sounds good.
Regulations have been implemented to safeguard the stone crab population, ensuring that this valuable marine life can continue sustainably for future generations.
First trap is up. He pops it open. Let's see what's inside.
It looks pretty good.
All right, 3 crabs. Those crabs go in the bin here.
There you go.
Oh, this one only has 1 claw.
Either somebody harvested him or he lost it in a fight with another crab. And we measure them. They have to be 2 7/8 inches long.
Or more?
Or more, yeah.
Okay.
And then you're going to crack them right here. Wow. And then we release the crab alive back to the wild.
As long as they're big enough, the males, we take all the claws.
Yes.
For females, it's highly illegal to remove their claws if they're bearing eggs.
The females have a wider piece right here compared to a male.
When resetting the traps back into the ocean, an enticing bait is essential. But instead of oysters or crustaceans, they opt for an unconventional choice.
Pig's feet.
It's one of the most sustainable baits that we can get.
People in Vietnam are horrified right now that you're feeding the pig's feet to crabs.
Actually, with these pig's feet, it's only the hind feet.
Oh, is that right?
The front feet get processed and do get shipped overseas.
On a good day, Paul and his crew can collect up to 600 pounds of stone crab claws, amounting to roughly 2,500 pieces.
Does PETA care about this? Are people upset that you're breaking the arms off?
Like a humane way?
Yeah, are people mad you're not giving them anesthesia first?
I'm sure there's somebody out there, but...
There's always somebody.
Yeah.
Like many crustaceans, stone crabs have a remarkable ability to regenerate their claws. This regrowth can take anywhere from 1 to 3 years.
I think we're in luck.
Oh my God, that's huge!
To once again reach a legally harvestable size.
Like this big!
However, this regeneration is only possible if the claws are removed correctly.
Okay, let me do this.
A flawed removal can fatally wound the crab, causing it to bleed to death.
I know you're mad, but soon you're gonna be mad and also not have arms.
Measure him first.
Oh. I almost broke the law.
Because I don't think he makes it.
Oh my God, no.
No.
First of all, let's check if it's a boy or a girl. This is a boy. We're gonna measure that one.
If it touches, it's legal.
These are both legal.
Those are both legal to take.
And then I just twist?
Twist down and
if I do it wrong, am I gonna rip it in half?
You could, yeah.
Oh!
You did it.
I got it, I'm sorry. Got it?
There
Good?
you go.
You look ridiculous.
At least he can go back and reproduce. That'll be for the next generation of crabs.
Now, but here's the thing. If I was a lady crab, I'm not gonna reproduce with a dude with no claws.
He's gonna have to work a little harder at it. Throw him right into the water. There you go.
It's quite common for a crab to lose and regenerate a claw or two throughout its lifetime, yet this loss can significantly impact a crab's odds of survival. According to the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, a crab with 2 claws removed had a 46 to 82% mortality rate, while a crab with its claws intact only had a 12% likelihood of dying.
No doubt this is a challenging job. You gotta get up early, you come out here in the swells and the waves, it's choppy. My camera guy threw up already, here's some footage of that. This is probably the most expensive seafood you can find in Florida. Why is it so expensive?
It's a lot of work to get out here. You gotta see, we gotta battle the elements, long hours, the gear's expensive. It's a labor of love to have to come out here to do it.
Back in the 1890s, these stone crabs were considered merely incidental bycatch in traps meant for spiny lobsters. But by the late 20th century, the stone crab fishery had evolved into one of Florida's most lucrative industries, valued at $30 million.
Ahoy!
From the docks, we're headed to a seafood processing facility where we'll soon see 400 pounds of live Florida lobster get steamed all at once.
Are they alive when they go in? Yeah, but not for long.
This place is crucial to the journey of the stone crab claws going from sea to plate.
Jason?
Hi, Sonny.
This place is amazing. You ever get a Make-A-Wish kid coming through here?
No, we have not.
They are not making good choices. I think they're not all there.
The moment the boat docks, the stone crab claws are weighed and whisked away to here.
Have you ever heard of somebody bringing a whole crab body onto land and getting in trouble for that?
I certainly have.
What happened?
At BSC Fisheries, they have their stone crab claws sorted into 4 distinct sizes, then sent off to a giant steamer.
If you get caught doing that, you can lose your boat, you can lose your licenses, you can lose all your traps.
And were they ever allowed to go fish again?
And once that happens, you usually receive a lifetime ban.
And then where do you move? Because here's the thing, in the USA, once you're a convict or a criminal, you move to Florida.
Unfortunately, if you make that mistake.
If you're already in Florida and you become a criminal, where the hell do you go?
I guess you gotta find a new home.
Arizona.
There you go.
Yeah.
The entire process is designed to be swift, ensuring the meat doesn't spoil. Once steamed, the claws are rapidly transferred to another container where they're buried in ice to halt the cooking process.
In a week, how many pounds of just crab claws do you think you have coming through here?
15 to 20,000 pounds.
But before they're sent out to local restaurants and wholesalers across Florida, they must be sorted by grade.
Let's go through the size categories. The smallest is?
Medium.
We don't have a small.
No small.
It's like movie theater popcorn.
Correct. And we have large, then we have jumbo and colossal.
Something like this in a restaurant, any idea how much that would cost?
Anywhere from the range of about $65 up to $90, depending on the place.
That is mind blowing.
You better bring your checkbook.
Yeah, no kidding.
You will not be disappointed though.
Fortunately, our next stop features a deal not to be missed, an all-you-can-eat stone crab claw feast for $120. And the best part, my friend Guga will be there to share in the experience.
Thanks for having me, Sonny.
But before that, I'm setting out to sample another seafood delight that Florida is famous for.
You guys also specialize in other types of seafood. I'm very interested in the spiny lobster because we started this journey in Maine. with the Maine lobster. It was big, beautiful, red. It has claws.
Spiny lobsters rank as the second biggest commercial fishery in Florida, and they're protected by law in the USA to help maintain their population.
I need to also try the spiny lobster and judge for myself which I think is the superior lobster.
You'll be the judge of that.
Would it be okay to steam like 400 pounds worth?
I think we can make that happen.
Similar to the stone crab claws, this vat of hundreds of spiny lobsters will soon face the same fate, plunging into brutal steamy temperatures, cooking their meat and transforming their shells into a bright orange hue.
After a thorough steaming, they need to stop the cooking process, so they cold shock it in ice water. That's gonna stop the meat from cooking. They're beautiful, they're orange, they're radiant, they're bright, they're beautiful. I said beautiful twice, and I meant it each time. Step 1, give it a little chiropractic treatment. Oh my Lord, there's so much goo and stuff in there. That's how you know it's fresh. There's some green tamale right here on the edge. I wanna get this whole tail out of here. That's why I have a knife. Don't cut your hand, don't go to the hospital, don't go to the hospital. Every time I go to the USA, I go to the hospital. Last time I shot myself in the head. Dude, I got jacked up. Boom, there we go. And look at that, automatically deveined. If someone tells you that does something special, you know, fertility, it's an aphrodisiac, don't believe them. I need that. I did a pretty bang up job. I got my whole thing right here. I'm gonna go from the back and try it out. Here we go. The temperature really affects the texture and the flavor to me. So with it being colder, it feels a little bit more dense, slightly more chewy. In general, I prefer a warmed up lobster, but this is still very nice. It's juicy, it's sweet, it's succulent, it's got a strong bite to it. I mean, who doesn't like lobster? It's good, but the question isn't about is it good? The question is, which is better between this and a Maine lobster? And I'm gonna tell you soon when I meet up with my good friend Guga at Billy's Stone Crab.
With some of the biggest, freshest crab claws plucked straight from the ocean floor this morning, we're headed to the best seafood spot in the Sunshine State. Soon, we'll bite into a colossal and find out if these claws are worth all the hype.
Put her there, how you doing?
Pleasure, Carlos.
The menu features a range of the seafood Florida is known for, but their bestseller, the item 75% of patrons are after, the reigning champion of the deep, the stone crab.
How much stone crab do you think you go through in a week?
Man, thousands of pounds.
But it's a pricey item. I mean, this is something you gotta save your allowance for weeks.
Put on the American Express card.
You could do that. You could go into debt. Americans do love that. The average person, how many are they ordering? Are they getting one claw only? Are they getting a plate of claws?
A lot of people get the all you can eat.
How much is all you can eat?
$120 per person for medium.
That's incredible. Let's talk about what I'm gonna be trying out tonight. The seafood tower. Coming in at more money than $120. How much is the seafood tower?
$550.
And what does it include?
You'll get a dozen oysters. You get jumbo lump crab meat, our beautiful colossal stone crabs or jumbo, the Florida lobster tails, and then king crab, steamed right on top.
This sounds amazing. I'm very excited. I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure, man.
The seafood tower arrives as a 3-tiered man-made marvel. On the first layer, a dozen raw oysters, elegantly nestled on a chilly bed of ice and kale, with a central bowl brimming with jumbo lump crab meat. Their second tier showcases today's highlight, 6 colossal-sized stone crab claws. Adjacent to the centerpiece, 4 spiny lobster tails. And finally, crowning the third tier, 4 robust king crab legs. Such a feast isn't meant for one.
It's an absolute pleasure. Michael, you've been here for a bit. How long have you been here?
20 years.
And how long's the restaurant been here?
It's around 46.
That's a pretty good chunk of time. Guga, you're here. It's a pleasure to dine with you.
Thanks for having me.
On camera.
Guga is a maestro of meats and the host of Guga Foods and Sous Vide Everything. The man knows beef like the back of his hand. But what about seafood?
My very first video on YouTube on Guga Foods was actually about lobster, spiny lobster to be specific.
I tried that earlier today. We'll talk about that soon.
Sure.
This is the end of a long series. We started in Maine, about an hour from Canada, all the way down the East Coast, trying out different seafoods that this beautiful country has to offer. And it's ending here in Florida, which some might consider to be the seafood capital of the USA.
100%.
What comes to mind when you think seafood in Florida?
Well, one of the main things that come to mind, of course, is stone crabs. They're a delicacy that's only in season 7 months a year. I hate to say it like this, but it's like a drug.
Good kind of drug.
One thing I was told coming to Florida is that if I'm gonna try seafood, I have to try grouper. That's what's in front of us right now.
Yes.
Black groupers are commonly found in the Gulf of Mexico and South Atlantic Ocean. They must be at least 22 inches to land, but they can reach up to 52 inches and a whopping 180 pounds.
It is my favorite fish, by the way. Next to hogfish. You ever had hogfish?
I've never had hogfish.
What?
Never.
Oh my God.
That's a good one, huh?
We don't get it often, but when we get it, it sells right away.
I gotta try hogfish, but let's try this crappy grouper first. I'm just kidding.
First, sprinkle salt and pepper on the butter-soaked grouper fillet. It sizzles as it hits the pan with hot oil. Deglaze the fillet with white wine, adding more butter and thyme. Then give it a moment alone in the oven. Lay the fish atop a generous mound of jumbo lump crab meat. Crown it with jumbo shrimp and a few slices of avocado. Drizzle the creation with beurre blanc, a rich blend of white wine, lemon, and butter, and finish with a sprinkle of microgreens.
Oh, wow. Wow, that is delicious, everybody.
That's really good. It's got a nice bite to it. It's flaky, but it doesn't just fall apart into nothing.
It's a thick, flaky fish.
This is cooked beautifully, and the fish, the ingredient itself to begin with, is magnificent. It's got bite to it.
And it's light.
So this isn't a cow, and that's okay.
Maybe it's the cow of the sea, Sonny.
By the way, I saw one of those. I saw a manatee today. I wanted to jump on its back so badly.
No, Sonny, you cannot do that. It's
I
illegal.
don't hope that anymore. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, we don't want to do that, everybody. You get in big trouble.
This, undoubtedly, excellent. But I've not had grouper yet on my trip. This is my first grouper. I have nothing to compare it to. So far on this trip, I've had 2 lobsters. I had Maine lobster and the spiny lobster here in Florida. Now, for me, unequivocally, I would have to say, I love the Maine lobster.
Why?
One of the best parts of a Maine lobster are the claws. The claws are soft, succulent, and juicy. They're even softer than the tail meat. They're perfect for a lobster roll. Spiny lobster. Where are the claws?
The reason you like the claw is because the tail of the Maine lobster is not good. That's the opposite from the Florida lobster, which the tails is better. And also, sometimes it's way too sweet on the Maine lobster.
Oh my God. I've never heard someone call seafood too sweet. Michael, tiebreaker.
Honestly, I like the Florida lobster. I love the taste of Florida lobster.
The guy that don't like seafood saying that you don't like Florida lobster.
Right here we have some chilled stone crab claws. Now, I have been working hard all day.
Damn!
Get to this moment right here. Please, my friend.
Did you catch this yourself?
It's been a long day. Let me tell you, I woke up at 5 a.m. I was on a boat. Somebody on my team threw up. Just footage of that again. He's right behind me.
That must have been a lot of fun.
Should we start with knuckle?
I mean, I always start with the knuckle.
Where's the mustard?
This is the mustard sauce. That's our famous mustard.
No butter, no mayonnaise, mustard. Cheers.
Wow.
It's delicious, huh, gentlemen?
Wow, it took my breath away.
That is amazing. I can't believe you caught it.
These boys were swimming yesterday.
These were alive. Wait, they're still alive.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on.
Yes, they are
That's
still
what I
alive.
learned today.
So are you telling me that this is the only animal you can eat it twice?
Potentially for decades. 3 years later, the claws, they could get this big again.
So it's the gift that keeps on giving.
100%. Now listen, mustard, that was nice. The meat itself, it's got a nice firmness to it, a wonderful texture, a great bite.
Slightly sweet?
Slightly sweet, but not too sweet for Guga here. So we tried the mustard. I say
we dunk in the butter, Sonny.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers, brother.
I know sometimes life can be tough.
The butter's so good.
Undeniable.
Everything's better with butter.
Absolutely.
Reflecting back on this trip so far, I've learned a lot. I'm from Minnesota. We have a red lobster. This trip, I've learned so much about different regions and these beautiful pockets of America up and down the East Coast. I have 2 major takeaways. One is that fishermen work their asses off. They're diligent, they put in a hard day's work, and they do it again and again and again.
It's hard work too.
It's hard work.
Doesn't matter if it's a good day, if it's a bad day, they're always there to get their catch. And sometimes you get lucky, and other times you don't.
Right, and they don't have control over the market or what they're gonna get paid that day, that month, or that year. I'm very impressed with the fishermen, but also with the chefs who choose to take on the challenge of serving seafood to their customers. You gotta get the freshest seafood possible, and it has a very narrow shelf life, especially if you're looking at stuff like Maine lobster. It's not gonna be there forever, and they need that to be alive, even if it gets to Minnesota or gets to China.
Sonny, out of the entire trip, which one was your favorite?
Oh, which seafood?
Yes, sir. We want to know. What stood out the most? It's the Florida lobster, but just tell me.
I think a once-in-a-lifetime experience when I was in Maryland. I had soft shell crab for the first time. It had just shed its shell the night before. We put the whole thing in a skillet. It was like a sausage stuffed with crab meat. It was amazing.
Whoa.
For me, I don't think I can replicate that.
But it's still not better than the Florida lobster, I'm sorry.
Boom! Guys, that is the end of video number 6 in the USA. The seafood tour is complete. We went all the way from basically Canada to basically almost Cuba. Pretty close. Huge thank you to Guga for coming and hanging out with me tonight for this meal. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for having me, brother.
You can find Guga at Guga Foods, at Guga, and at Sous Vide Everything. 3 different channels. There's so much stuff, so much food, so much entertainment for you to see with my man Guga. Go check it out.
Thank you, Sonny.
Otherwise, guys, that is it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Peace. All right, should we go outside? We can jump off the pier
I think
here.
so.
We're
Let's
like
go.
on the ocean.
Let's
right?
eat some
go
more
catch
lobster.
some
Yes,
on the ocean
Florida
floor.
lobster to be specific.
No, it's okay to be
Nah,
different.
You're wrong.
No, you're right.